All right, good afternoon, folks. Welcome in. Glad to have you all. Probably going to go live for at least an hour or two tonight. So hang on, let me get everything set up here and then we can begin our discussion. If you're just joining in, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from and how weather conditions are where you are today. Again, in case you missed it, just getting set up. If you're just tuning in, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from, how the weather is where you are today. And we'll begin our coverage here momentarily. I also have the ability to link the shop now as well, so I can link some new products for you guys to tune into directly here on YouTube. Hey everyone, welcome in. Yeah, basically it makes accessing the Stormwatch shop that much easier. Really glad to be able to have those permissions now. But yeah, again, in case you guys are just tuning in, missed the message originally, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from, how your weather conditions are doing today. A couple of you guys joining in on YouTube, hello there. Linwood is drizzling, thank you for letting me know. Moderate to heavy rain showers, temperature 7.1 degrees Celsius in Victoria, BC. Awesome sauce. About 44 degrees Fahrenheit or so. Approximately about 44.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Just getting a few things set up here. And then we will begin. I'm going to link 3 products here on YouTube for now. Yeah, I'm still testing a few things out here with the new monetization features. So just bear with me here momentarily. I think we're all set up and ready to go on there. Hey there, Keith. Welcome back. Maybe.boo. Hello. Good to see you. Lake taps, light showers, some sun earlier today. Yeah, I saw the sun for a little bit. Unfortunately, I was having issues with septic backup here in my kitchen sink. My neighbors next door actually brought it up to me before I even had the chance to notice. So that was quite the debacle to take care of. Definitely a little worked up after that. So I'm hopping on the stream here for a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, to get my mind off of that, and two, because we have a wind advisory for some areas tomorrow that I want to go over and cover briefly. But first, look at radar and visible satellite imagery. See these showers coming through, some of them a little bit robust. You can see all of these little popcorn showers off the coast not being picked up on radar yet. Some of these showers moving into Vancouver, surrounding areas definitely pack a punch for sure. You know, there's some convection out there. Not enough for any lightning yet today, but some areas have had hail the last few days. I have Tempest Weather Station, Oak Bay Weather Station. Check it out on maps. All right, another person with the Tempest. That's awesome to see. William Gatlin's on. How are you, sir? Yeah, just dealing with that septic overflow into my kitchen sink. That was not fun, but it seems like we're fixed now, hopefully. But unfortunately, myself and my neighbor who were having the issue could not get a hold of emergency maintenance right away. Turns out their number was updated recently, and my upstairs neighbor actually brought it up to our attention, and I believe we were able to have them called out. I'm not 100% sure though. It might have just went down on its own, but it's just not the way I wanted my day to go. That's for sure. Very, very rough start to the day, in my opinion. But, you know, not everything goes your way, right? Yeah, let's see. Wind gusts in the area today. Not too much going on around the area now. For the most part, it looks like, again, the northwest interior waters here take the cake when it comes to that. Wind gusts out of the southeast pushing 40 to 45 miles per hour at times. If we go to max wind gusts, I think a couple of these stations are reporting off. See, this one has a maximum of 67 mile per hour gusts, which this station has been known to be finicky ever since it came back online. It's been reading some crazy, obnoxious numbers. Silverdale going to get a wind advisory tomorrow. Too soon to say. But if we go and look at models, which we will here momentarily, I have a hunch that may be coming soon for some areas of the Puget Sound. You know, let me make sure I have the most up-to-date model run here. Let's go to the 18Z HER. 18Z HER 3KM here. Now let's go out to the day of the event tomorrow. And it's uptrended since the last run. Let's go back to the 12Z here. The 12Z was 30 to 35. 18Z is 45 to 50. So, question is, which one are you going to lean towards? You know, there's a chance it could go back on itself in the next run. We're rendering, I think we're almost through the 23Z, which means the 0Z is right around the corner. Let's compare this to what the NAM 3KM is showing for the same time. Yeah, it shows around 35 to 45. Let's make sure we're on the recent one. Yeah. Yeah, the NAM's a little less, but still shows some locally stronger winds around the area, but not quite pushing wind advisory in most of these areas. There's some areas here, like North Kitsap, for example, you could possibly get a little wind advisory tomorrow, maybe even tonight. I'll be on the lookout for if they put out any new alerts coming up, and I'll be sure to let you guys know as soon as possible. Yeah, it's really nasty for sure. Staying in my apartment that's full of biohazard earlier, not great. And, geez, I kid you not, I can't believe I didn't notice the smell right away. It must have been my backed up sinuses. As soon as I went in that kitchen, whoo-wee. Oh, man. It's going to be a pretty gnarly cleanup. For sure. It is going to be a gnarly cleanup in that kitchen. Luckily, nothing spilled over. It stayed in the sink. But for sure, not something I'm looking forward to come lease renewal time, which I'm trying to get to now. But for some reason, my apartment complex just refuses to send it out to me for some reason. So I don't know. It's either going to be go month to month or possibly move out of here. You know, go back to the old life, living at home, you know? Sometimes you just say it is what it is, truthfully. But yeah, but then after that little system comes through, we remain breezy going into Tuesday morning, but then we start to die out a little bit. You know, and then after that, all eyes turn towards Wednesday. And let me go show you guys the most recent European run here. Because this is pretty interesting as well. See, so this would be Monday's system. Tomorrow's cold front coming through. Again, not terribly breezy down here. Definitely noticeably breezy, but it doesn't look super impactful around here on the European. It's when we go out to Wednesday where we kind of have those red flags begin to pop up. We're tracking this system move from south to north. And you notice it's gonna pack quite a tight pressure gradient with it. So it's at 988 millibars of central pressure here. And then look at that tight gradient right there. That's 6 millibars across, say, like 20 to 30 miles at most. And then it's going to loosen the gradient just a tad bit when it comes up here. But we're still going to have a 6 millibar gradient likely between Tacoma and Chehalis approximately, which is pretty significant. It would definitely lead to a quick blow of wind. And that's what the European's showing here. But not all the models agree on this. This would be between 4 p.m., 10 p.m. Wednesday. For those of you who don't know, that's Christmas Eve. If we look at wind direction, it looks like for the most part, winds are going to be out of the south during this time. I saw a post earlier saying the winds are going to be out of the east. Yeah, it may be breezy out of the east before the system comes in, but the strongest wind is likely going to be out of the south, assuming this does actually happen. Because right now, the European's the only one on board with this. You know, not all of the other models show a solution like this. And I know you guys are commenting away, and I promise I'll get to them eventually. I just want to get this out of the way first. See, like, for example, the NAM Regional. It drags the system all the way over into eastern Washington and completely, but for the most part, completely skips us here on Christmas Eve. This would be one of the better scenarios for us. It wouldn't be so great for northeastern Oregon, southeastern Washington, though. Ooh, that's quite a nasty blow to them. But we'll have to watch things over the next 48 hours or so. But for right now, we're really paying attention to tomorrow. Let me see if the hourly runs are close enough in range yet. I think it's going to be pretty close. Yeah, see, we're not quite there yet. I'm gonna have to wait for the 0Z, her, and Nam to render to really get an idea of what we could expect tomorrow. So, anyways. Yeah, Vicky Wall, sure thing. Thank you for tuning in. When is the snow? Oh, a couple questions asking about snow already. Yeah, a couple questions asking about snow. Can't make any guarantees to you guys right now. It's too far out to make any guarantees. I'll say that right now for sure. But some of the models have been trending towards cooler and wetter for sure. If we go to precip type and rate, heavy snow up in the mountains tomorrow after that cold front comes through. And we bring that next system up. It's going to be rain here in the lowlands. But then after that, it's kind of a wild card. Will we have enough moisture or enough cold air? And can we have them at the same time? That's overall going to be the message coming up. Can we get all of these ingredients to line up at the same time? It's going to be the most important question of all to ask. What am I missing? When you ask that, are you talking about the forecast coming up for tomorrow? Or are you talking about the forecast for Wednesday? Because tomorrow, we're going to bring this pretty strong cold front through, most likely. It's going to be some heavy rain in spots, but luckily it'll be in and out fairly quickly. But it is going to bring a punch of snow to the mountains, as shown here. And this is European data imagery, so it's not the greatest model resolution, I'm afraid. But it does show rain in the lowlands, snow in the mountains, and a punch of wind along with it, but nothing too major. We don't have that major steep pressure rise. Thank you so much, Ken Moffitt, for the early Christmas present. 5,000 stars. Really, really appreciate that. Truly. Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you. Missed what happened to Biohazard. Yeah, so my next door neighbor right behind the wall here, in the building next to me. Well, not the building next to me, but the unit next to me. And my sinks both backed up through both of the sinks because we have dual sinks in our kitchen. And it also started backing up through the extension nozzle. Although we don't have the nozzles installed, we do have the little expansion port, I guess you could say, where you can put in the little hand nozzle tool next to your sink. I started backing up raw sewage from other people's, what looks like other people's garbage disposals as well as my own. And when I would turn on my garbage disposal or even bring out the plunger, it would back up through that port as well as through the sinks, and it was rising pretty quickly. Like to the point where I had to empty out the sink with a dirty kettle at least once an hour to keep it from overflowing. Yeah, it was definitely not the way I wanted my day to go. I had high ambitions for today, and it just didn't materialize because of that. So I decided, okay, that in the wind advisory in effect for parts of the area, not for the Seattle Metro. Seattle Metro is not included in the wind advisory right now. I just really wanted to get my mind off of things, and so I needed people to talk to, I guess. So I brought up my all-time faithful audience here on Puget Sound Stormwatch, and we're gonna talk about the weather. We're gonna rant about the weather, and we're gonna rant about some personal life outside of things too. I'm not gonna take up too much of your time talking about things outside of weather, but I just wanted to make it known that that this is what's going on behind the scenes. And so I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today, even if it's for a short time today. It also helps the Seahawks aren't playing today, so that also opens up a period for me to, kind of chat with you guys. And I actually didn't even notice this is an 8 millibar gradient right here. See, 2, 4, 6, 8 across a single county, possibly. But will the storm stay this strong when it moves up the coast? That is going to be the biggest question of them all. Let's zoom out and take a closer look at this. See, that's a very tight gradient. That's a 12 millibar gradient if you zoom out all together across northwest Oregon. That is powerful. But it likely won't be as strong when it moves up here into western Washington. So you see it moves all the way off the coast of California here, and then it rides along the coast, basically parallel to the coast, and then slides into western Washington here Wednesday afternoon. This is around 4 p.m. It's likely sometime between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. General little 12-hour window right now. We're not quite in high-res imagery yet. Probably not until this time tomorrow. So then we can go into further detail about this. But right now, just the initial prognosis is definitely looking like a windy day. Based on which model you choose, because if we go back to the 12Z, the timing's a little different, but it shows a stronger storm, but not quite a stronger gradient on it. See, this has it earlier in the day on Wednesday, the last run. We go back to the 6Z, and it has it even earlier than that. It has it earlier in the morning. There's still some inconsistency run to run here. But the last few runs of the European have been very much intriguing. See, now we're out to yesterday's 18Z, 4 runs away. Guess what? Still showing the same thing. Showing something similar, but not quite as strong on yesterday's 12Z. This is where you start getting profound differences. Like this has the center of the storm missing us to the east. But geez, imagine that. Imagine if it brought snow in on Christmas Eve. Unlikely to happen right now. Very unlikely to happen. But it did show up as one solution at one time. See, that would be pretty intense. But yeah, in recent European runs, it's shifting the system back farther west over our area, which would bring the stronger winds over the Puget Sound. Definitely something to watch. But if we go to the model, and then there's the cold front coming in tomorrow. And pretty potent cold front. This is what's responsible for those wind advisories that went out for the coast of Jefferson and Tuolumne County, as well as Island County, San Juan County, Western Skagit, Western Whatcom, and Northwestern Snohomish counties. I forgot to mention Northwestern Snohomish County is also included in this on my most recent post, but this is north of Marysville and Everett. This includes the towns of Arlington and Stanwood and points northwestward, basically. But yeah, this is the cold front that's likely to come through. So yeah, definitely something to watch coming up. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be windy for sure. Tomorrow's going to be noticeably windy, especially in the afternoon. But what's going to happen Wednesday? That is the biggest question of them all right now. I've started addressing people on my subscriber tab, as well as anyone who pledged on Patreon. Started talking about this a little bit earlier. But since the details are still so vague at the moment, I don't really want to make a public blog post at the moment. But I'm just giving you guys a preview right now for those of you guys who are watching. Okay. Haven't looked at YouTube for a while. Okay. Yeah, the cold front is 71 miles away from the coast. Yeah, like Keith said. So, believe our cold front's somewhere in here if I'm not mistaken. Let's go check the windy map again. This will usually give you a good idea of what's going on here. Ooh, good news. They just canceled the flood warning for the White River in Auburn. I believe that means we only have one flood warning now, because they also canceled the flood warning for the Chehalis at Porter. I think we only have the Skokomish at Potlatch under a flood warning now, which is great news. Yeah, here's the system up here. I believe that's the one responsible for the cold front coming in tomorrow. Yeah, and then it's going to swing in kind of an unusual direction, almost north to south. You don't really see that flow too often around here. And then it's going to bounce back off to the east, and then it's going to launch that cold front at us. We go back in time here. Actually, it appears there's a main low here and then a couple of little meso lows around it also. So these are going to be playing Fujiwara with each other, which is when you have two rotating masses revolving about one another. And they can fling one another in different directions and so on. It's pretty cool, like when you have hurricanes that do the Fujiwara effect. Yeah, it's just one huge mass of low pressure here, and there's several little meso low centers within it. One of those is going to drag in the cold front tomorrow. Pretty interesting stuff for sure. But yeah, you can note several little areas of embedded rotation within this huge oblong low pressure area here. Could be a blockage in a pipe somewhere, but yeah, I'm not sure if the problem was fully resolved. For anyone tuning in who's asking again, I had a sewage backup into my kitchen sink this morning, and my neighbor is actually the one that brought it up to me. My next door neighbor came over in a panic and was like, hey, is your sink overflowing? My sink's overflowing, and usually when my sink overflows, the people next door to me have the same issue. I guess in previous history. Nothing in the last year since I've been here, but in previous history. And sure enough, I go to my sink, and yep, it's backed up almost to the top. So I was like, oh yeah, that's wonderful. And I go out, talk to my neighbor again. I'm just like, oh yeah, same issues going on with me. And then they're like, hey, yeah, I've been calling all the emergency lines that they've listed for the apartment complex with no answer. It turns out all of those numbers were out of date when new management came into the apartment complex sometime in the last few months or so. They changed all the numbers around. So I had an outdated number this whole time too, because I tried getting a hold of them. I really didn't like that lack of communication from my apartment complex. But, I'm not going to bash them on this stream. That's not the point of this stream. That's the $1 million question. Yeah, not just snow, but also freezing rain. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if the sink is fixed right now, but I do notice I went to go clean out the main side that I used, the right side, and my garbage disposal is working okay right now. Not having any backup back into the sink, and the water level is down below the sink level now. So I was glad to see that. I'm hoping maybe somebody came out and fixed things behind the scenes, but I didn't have anyone come into my actual unit to fix it. So I'm hoping it was a septic blockage or something somewhere else down the line. That was just affecting our 2 units. I don't know anyone else who was having issues. It could have been all the lower story units. But I know the people above me, I talked to them, and they weren't having any issues. To make things even weirder, it was just the kitchen, too. I had no problems with my bathroom sink, my toilet, my shower. All of that's working fine. Not a single problem with that whatsoever. I saw something at my mom's front door. Not sure what that... Oh, someone's walking outside. Okay. One thing I like about Radar Omega that you can show the fronts. Yeah, true. And also weather under map as well. I still have this tab active from when we were last live on Thursday, I think it was. Where it also has the ability to show the fronts. And yeah, this is probably a rough estimation, but this is likely our cold front right there. I feel like based on what the models are showing, it may be a little bit too far on the coast in this case. This is probably showing different than what Radar Omega is showing. Yeah, see, this shows the low pressure center here, and then a big occluded front around it. And then the stationary front connecting to several other low pressure centers out here too. And the warm front and another stationary front. And this huge elongated cold front that turns into a stationary front. And this is what's driving in the atmospheric river down into California right now. This is the reason why we're not getting the atmospheric river up here. Just because the jet stream south of us, and now we're in this trough pattern, which allows these systems in to our area. So it's probably not super accurate on here. Yeah, it's going to be pretty close. It's going to be pretty close if that's the case. Let's go check radar again. You can definitely see a frontal feature right here. But I'm pretty sure it's not our main cold front that we're worried about. There's a cold front tonight, I believe, and then there's a cold front tomorrow. But the cold front tomorrow you can't quite see well on here. The cold front tonight, it's going to kick up the wind a little bit. It's going to kick up the wind, and it's probably going to kick up the rain. We're not seeing too much on the radar here at the moment. Radar scope may show a different story, though. So let's go look at the Langley Hill radar off the coast, and yeah, you can definitely see what looks like some sort of frontal feature here. You don't clearly see that well-defined wind shift here on the radar, so it's a pretty overall weak cold front signature. But definitely could kick up the wind tonight and the rain with it as well. So don't be surprised if it gets a little blustery in the next few hours. But it's probably going to be for a short time. So yeah, that's tonight's cold front coming in. The wind increasing tomorrow for Coupeville. Likely, yes. So you're in a wind advisory tomorrow. Just a heads up. Coupeville is in the wind advisory from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the coast of Jefferson, Clallam counties here, you're in a wind advisory until 4 p.m. tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. here and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. here. The Northwest Interior. This includes the towns of Mount Vernon, Arlington, and Bellingham as well. So yeah, you could see wind gusts up to 45. Some models even show a little higher. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. We'll probably be talking about the westerly surge as well. I don't believe the westerly surge signature is as potent this time around. They're talking about the southeast winds. So the winds up there are likely going to stay offshore for most of the period tomorrow. And they're going to be strong offshore winds too. So there's good agreement. This is the GFS now. This is the 18Z GFS. And good agreement on the cold front tomorrow for sure. Great agreement there. The disagreement comes with Wednesday. Wednesday, the GFS flings this system off to the east, and the NAM Regional does the same thing. And then it starts playing, as Michael Snyder would dub, the funky chicken with the next system off the Oregon coast. It moves north, does a little whoop-de-whoop spinny, and then down back south it goes. And then we start going off into fantasy land here. What happens after this point is a huge wild card, but the GFS does show snow on occasions, but the GFS gets really active the first week of January to ring in the new year. But the European, not quite on board with that yet. And then we look at the AI model, the AI European. Also, the GFS came out with an AI model too, called the AI GFS. The very original, right? Yeah, there's tomorrow's cold front. And then the Euro AI showing something a little similar, but it brings the system more offshore and keeps it offshore. It keeps the strongest winds over the northwest waters. See, a little 4 millibar pressure gradient there. Not terrible, but if we were to get something like right in between the Euro traditional and the Euro AI, we could be talking about a pretty big punch being packed on us on Wednesday. But still a little too soon to go into specifics. We have to wait for the high-res imagery to really be sure about that, which we're still about 24 hours out from. Going to the fam for Christmas. Don't want power out for cooking. Yeah, Cascade Foothills, East King County. Initially, right now, it definitely looks blustery for you guys. For sure, it definitely looks blustery, without a doubt. If you're talking about the foothills of King County, we're talking about 50 plus on the Euro, which usually is the king of model runs around here, the European. So a little bit of a red flag to start things out, but we'll have to watch further runs of this as well as when we get in the high resolution range. Like right now, if we go to the NAM 12KM, the regional model, it's about as accurate as the GFS. It doesn't have the best reputation. But you notice when we go and look at the low pressure center here, it also flings it off a little bit to the east. See over here, but now that I'm seeing it closer, now it wants to bring the low a little closer as well, but weaker, with less of a pressure rise behind it, which would spare us from any strong wind. See, for some reason, it brings the strongest winds off to the east of the mountains, even though the low pressure center is to the west. Why that is, I'm not exactly certain, but it's possibly because of terrain enhanced pressure gradients over here. You see, the blue mountains here are probably going to enhance the pressure gradient behind that low pressure center there on the east side of the mountains, and that's probably why it's going to get windy over there. That's just my theory right now on that, based on what I'm seeing. But the NAM Regional 12 km does bring the low pressure center to the west side of the Cascades, which is kind of a red flag that you don't want to see right now. We're still about 18 to 24 hours out from being in range of the NAM 3 km high-res model here. Hey there, PNW Hawk, all good. Yeah, cold front's moving in right now. We have a weak cold front moving in today. More powerful cold front moving in tomorrow, which is the reason why we have the wind advisory in effect for some areas. Let's go and show that real quick. There we go. Also have a coastal flood advisory for San Juan County tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. Yeah, this alert's been canceled, thankfully. The White River near R Street and Auburn flood warning has been canceled. So now we just have the Skokomish near Potlatch. This again is expected to hit moderate flood stage after, I believe, tomorrow's system, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is a gale warning as well. Yeah, gale warning here for the Salish Sea. This includes Squim Bay and Discovery Bay. So that's wind gusts of at least 35 knots or 40 miles per hour. Also, gale warnings for all the coastal waters as well. And then small craft advisories for the Admiralty Inlet area, Strait of Georgia, and the Puget Sound and Hood Canal area. That means wind gusts of around 30 to 35 miles per hour expected. But any of the brown areas here, you're in the wind advisory. So, for example, North Coast here, the coast of Jefferson County, coast of Clallam County, including Neah Bay, La Push, Quileute, all the way down here to Queets. You're in the wind advisory, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow. In Island County, San Juan County, northwestern Snohomish, including Arlington and Stanwood, western Skagit, and western Whatcom are in the wind advisory tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. A little bit longer on the wind advisory for you northwest interior folks tomorrow. Gale warning in Pacific County. Yes, you are correct. Gale warning for the waters of Pacific County, including Willapa Bay and Cape Disappointment as well. The Columbia River Bar out here also in the gale warning. Yes, you are correct about that. So Lewis County, no wind advisory at the moment. There's no wind advisories currently for the Puget Sound Metro. It's north and west of the area right now. But we don't even have high wind advisories for the Grace Harbor coast yet. And no products yet from NWS Portland on wind advisories, as far as I can see. Yeah. No NWS advisories on wind advisories for NWS Portland right now. Yeah, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. gale warning for the waters of Pacific County. Yes, that is correct. Right now, Silverdale, no wind advisory for you. If the model trends keep up overnight, there is a small chance you could get a wind advisory issued, maybe for a little short fuse, little wind advisory for some of the Puget Sound tomorrow. It's not my call to make, though, unfortunately. It's going to be up to the National Weather Service. For them, if they see anything different, than I do. Yeah, we're looking at the AIGFS now. It agrees with the frontal system, but it has a nothing burger for Wednesday. But this is a new experimental model. This is using Google's GraphCast AI infrastructure. So they're just starting out. See, it says Google's GraphCast AI model right here. Don't even get me started on the Canadian. The Canadian is just something else. It throws the system off here to eastern Washington. Doesn't do much for wind, but then the next system, look, it does a boom, funky chicken again. It bounces north into southern Oregon and then gets flung back into northern California. The little change in the flow there. The little ricochet. The Canadian does show some things interesting going out towards the new year, though. But it's too far into the future. We're over 9 days out, so likely not to happen. But this would bring a windstorm on the 30th of December. But again, not counting on that solution. No other model shows anything remotely close to that. Going to be a chance for lowland snow first week of January. Well, let's see. Can we go out to the first week of January? Yes, we can. Let's see what the European shows right now. Let's go back to the 12Z Euro and see what it has to say. Maybe. Could you imagine some New Year's snow the night of? Wouldn't that be pretty incredible? Although the likelihood for this happening is very low. Again, extremely low. This has several chances for snow the first week of January, but we have to analyze above the ground to see what's going on here. Like 925 millibar temperatures, for example. This is at 2,500 feet. You usually want these below -2 degrees Celsius. Ideally, at that time. Which again, the model does show it's plenty cold. The Arctic air is in a great place here on the European, but will it stick around for long enough to bring widespread snow? It doesn't quite have the coldest temperatures working their way as far south as we should see for that. At least not for an Arctic outbreak. It's pretty close, because if we go up to 850 millibars, 5,000 feet right now, this is destined to change. So before we start getting too excited, this was the last run before it. And see, it keeps that air well far to the east. And then it brings it all the way back here in the 12Z. Will the 0Z say the same thing? If it does, then we may have a case here. But right now, it's too hard to tell at the moment. But yes, this would be sufficient for snow down here the first week of January if this were to stick around, which it probably won't. And we'll look at the anomalies for 5,000 feet. See, we bring what looks like an atmospheric river through the night before New Year's Eve, and then we bring in that cold air mass, but just how far south will it go? And will it even happen? That's the question as well. Will it even happen? But we have this Arctic air in the favorable place. If we can turn on that Fraser River outflow just enough, if we can get a little trough here in a close enough position to not bring too much marine influence and kick on that Fraser River outflow, we could have a case going for us the first week of January. Very well could, but it's too soon to tell. And it wants to bring a ridge through last week of December, and then a quick little atmospheric river. See, atmospheric river signal right there with neutral heights. Trough to the north, ridge to the south. Neutral heights here, that's your atmospheric river riding along the jet stream, the polar jet stream, upper level jet, as I like to call it. And then we bring a huge trough through the first week of January, and this would probably usher in some of that Arctic air. But for how long and how far south will it go? But this is a great signal from the European model. This is a great signal. Does the GFS show the same? Not remotely close. Not even remotely close. The GFS immediately ruins your hopes and actually keeps us in an atmospheric river pattern going into the new year too. And it's a sustained atmospheric river pattern where those heights are neutral right there. Oh boy, the GFS is breaking some hearts. It sure is breaking some hearts. I know that for sure. But if we go to the 18Z run of the GFS, it's a little bit closer, but not quite close enough. Still, it's a tease right now. It's a tease at best. Doppler Dave, thank you so much for your super duper on YouTube. $5 for some air fresheners. Thank you. Yeah, I'll need those for sure. Really got to air out the place. So sick of this weather, we need a break, saying Tuesday a possible break. This Tuesday, yeah. It's going to be a little bit of a break between systems. That's for sure. It's going to be a little bit of a break, but not long. It's going to be some wind and rain tomorrow, maybe a break on Tuesday. And then some wind and rain on Wednesday too, but we're still not 100% sure on that. I'm bummed. I want more wind in Port Townsend. Someone that wants more wind. You know, I will say to each their own. I know a lot of people who don't want the wind right now, who really can't afford to have any more wind. Yeah, outside of wind, we're not seeing too much around the area right now. Again, this flood warning was canceled, so we only have one river flood warning now for the Skokomish near Potlatch on the Olympic Peninsula. Other than that, we just have that coastal flood advisory in effect for tomorrow for San Juan County. It's a minor tidal overflow possible. But other than that, no more flood alerts. Flood watch canceled entirely. I know a lot of people are thankful for that, for sure. Yeah, it depends on the cold and precipitation coming tighter, for sure. You know, you need things to line up almost perfectly. You also got to make sure you don't bring in too much east wind as well, because that will dry out the air mass enough to where there will be no accumulating snow whatsoever. You may not even see snow at the low levels close to these mountain gaps. And that's another thing too. You know, you want to bring a low pressure system in, but one that's not too strong to pull a gradient through the mountain gaps. You know, there's a very specific science here to predicting snowfall. You just have to have everything line up to a certain degree to enhance your chances. Just like stormy weather. Hey, that's fair enough. There's no problem with liking stormy weather, for sure. I agree with that. I like stormy weather as well. It keeps things busy here at the office. It keeps me interested in wanting to be a part of the weather as well. You know, there are times I get bored of things, you know? Look, I bet this is a sign of relief. Just greens and yellows. Only orange here is the Skokomish, and that has the flood warning. But other than that, no oranges west of the Cascades. Is that a sigh of relief or what? I'd say so. And only going down from here, as of right now. Yep, only going down. Great sign for sure. And then the Skokomish should be out of flood stage by tomorrow. This is tomorrow night. Yeah. Again, great news for those of you who are against the floods, which I know most, if not all of you are, for sure. This station is recording 43, but that's been a wonky station ever since it came back online. When the power came back online for South Whitby. That's been reading some pretty crazy measurements. Like this was reading 58. This station was reading 67 earlier. Of all numbers, it's got to be 67. Yes, I know. But I just basing it on trends with other nearby stations. Snow levels will be about 700 feet on Friday up here. Ooh. Could have something going for you up in Whatcom County. The higher hilltops like Sumas Mountain, for example. Any of these higher hills over here could, if we get a heavy enough shower to drag the snow level down briefly, we could get some accumulations up there. The front right now is strongest going into Whatcom County. Definitely some heavy rain about to enter Bellingham for sure. Crossing the San Juan Islands, about to cross into Bellingham in western Skagit County, but currently raining pretty heavily right now over Blaine and moving into Ferndale at this time. Yeah, that's the north end of our front. Looks like you can just about draw out the frontal boundary here if you look closely enough. Just like that. No snow in Idaho. Bring on the green Christmas. Yeah, it's looking like a windy, rainy Christmas for us here in the Puget Sound. Honestly, could it be any more depressing? It probably could, honestly. We could all be underwater for Christmas, for all we know. A little too soon to be talking about that. I know there's a lot of cleanup going on up north. I've been watching Whatcom County Weather's page on cleanup efforts, especially in the town of Sumas. Now that people are allowed back in the Sumas, they have quite the extensive cleanup going for them right now. Yeah, heavy rain about to go in the Sumas. A little bit of a break down here for the South Sound, but there are some showers along that front coming in. This doesn't look particularly impressive at this time. You see, it looks a little better on radar scope. You can see some heavier showers embedded in here, 100%. So there is some rain coming in tonight. Just not terribly heavy right now. Nothing out of the ordinary. And it looks like we had the wind shift behind that front also. Here at the Hoquiam Bowerman Airfield Station, we had that wind shift already. Not seeing the Quileute Airport Station, which is odd, but yeah, we're shifting to out of the west-northwest here at Hoquiam. So that front has passed Hoquiam and is moving up towards the I-5 corridor right now. We want snow. Oh, I know a lot of people want snow, and I'm gonna be the heartbreaker for most of your chances. Hate to be that guy, but back to reality for us. And it looks like the 0Z HER is rendering now. We'll just wait for this to render out at the moment. We go out to 4 hours. Interestingly enough, the HER shows some segments here, producing some relatively strong winds. This has a segment out here, a little line segment producing 56 mile per hour gusts within it. This is at 8 p.m. tonight, if that forecast holds. It could be pretty interesting along the coast overnight. We'll just have to wait for some more frames to come out of it. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, it's good to see it. There's some nice fundraisers going on up there for sure. And I addressed in one of my recent posts as well. If you guys see any pages that are hosting fundraisers for the flooding, go ahead and post them on my Facebook page. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I have seen some flood relief efforts up in Whatcom County as well as Snohomish County also. I haven't seen anything for Skagit County yet, but if you see a fundraiser, go ahead and tag me in it or comment on one of my posts, and I'll share it for you. Hoping for no wind Christmas or Christmas Eve so all can have power. 100%. We're still not locked in yet. We're still pretty far from being locked in for wind on Christmas Eve. But the European, which is usually the favorable model for wind, is locking itself in on wind for Christmas Eve. It's just a matter of, will it stick to it? Will the other models cave towards it? Or will we have a disagreement going into Christmas Eve and have to now cast the whole thing, which I hope doesn't happen. I like to spend Christmas Eve with some family, preferably, without having to go into breaking coverage, if you know what I mean. But it's all going to depend on forecasts over the next 48 hours, 100%. We should have a good idea by hopefully Tuesday afternoon at the latest of what exactly we're going to see. at least timing-wise, and an estimate for ranges of wind. Keith says, been doing a lot of studying in meteorology. That's awesome, Keith. That's really great to hear. Yeah, it's cool that I can bring up my store products now here on YouTube. Pretty cool. Just messing around with a few things on there right now. Yeah, and speaking of that also, while I have you guys here with me, had some people ask about the store recently. This is the store, the Puget Sound Stormwatch store. The few new designs released. This one was a custom design for someone who didn't end up purchasing the shirt, unfortunately. So we may be discontinuing this design. But multitude of other designs released. If you guys are interested in looking at the store, go ahead and ask me. I will gladly send you a link. Also a link in the description of the stream. And should be pinned to the front of my page here on Facebook also. And again, another reminder for you guys who want to help donate to keep these streams up full time during the slow season, like at this moment today. You know, when there's not much going on. If you guys want to help keep things up and running smoothly, you do have, this is the most important way. This is not really the most important, but the most sufficient way of supporting is through Ko-fi. ko-fi.com/Puget Sound Stormwatch. Appreciate all the kind words from you guys over the last few days and beyond. You know, thank you again for all you guys have done to help, especially right before this holiday season. You know, I know times are tough. I know a lot of you guys don't have much to help donate, but you know what? That is fine. All of you guys being here right now, that is more than enough. All of you guys who follow and share the page, you guys are doing great dividends for me. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, sunset is currently upon us. Pretty much already dark, but with the cloud cover, it's extra dark outside. And once this front passes through, we could get some sun breaks. Should we say night breaks behind the front tonight? You may be able to see the stars from time to time. And after that, another unstable air mass comes in. Can't rule out the possibility, again, more hail showers, maybe a clap of thunder over the next 48 hours. You know, the HRRR here sure shows some of these robust showers off the coast tonight, going into midnight now. But gradually weakening as they approach the coast. Yeah, and I'm looking over at some of my weather buddies as well here on Discord. You know, you guys know Washington Weather Chasers. Ben, you guys know Jonathan Pulley, Whidbey Island Weather, Matthew Fab, Western Washington Weather, and so on. We all have a group that we're in together, and we're talking about what's coming up on Wednesday. And it looks like there's some better model agreement, possibly. You know, the European and its AI infrastructure, as well as the American AI infrastructure, are starting to trend west on the system on Wednesday. We'll have to watch that a little bit closer. But for right now, I want to focus on what's coming up tomorrow. I want to wait till the HRRR 3KM gets in range on its 0Z run. We're only out to 9 hours right now, as seen down here. I want to see what happens when it gets in the range. Will it show bigger winds for us tomorrow? If so, we could have a case for a wind advisory expansion tomorrow, a little bit southward into the Puget Sound. Maybe a little southward along the coast too. You know, right now the NWS made their call. Their initial call is the North Coast and the Northwest Interior are going to be the windy spots. where we see wind advisory criteria wind gusts, sustained winds and wind gusts tomorrow late morning and throughout the afternoon time. I want to see again what happens here on the HRRR once it starts to fully initialize its run. All right. See if we can get a few more frames here on the HRRR. And then the 0Z NAM will be right behind it. We still got to wait a few more hours for the 0Z European, so we're not going to show that on this stream. And while I have all of you guys on here, go ahead and feel free to ask questions, even outside of the weather, while we're all together here. I know Sunday Night Football is starting up here in about 10 minutes. I just haven't been able to get my NFL app to work, and that reminds me I have to check my phone. $506. Yeah, I don't know why I just cannot get into my NFL app right now. It's just a non-stop frozen window on the loading screen. Of course, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Ken Moffitt here on Facebook for his donation of 5,000 stars. So thank you for the Christmas present. I really appreciate that, Ken. Again, thank you Doppler Dave 211 here on YouTube for your $5 super duper. Or some air fresheners after the sewage backup in my apartment. Yeah, guys, the apartment life is becoming a bit of a struggle fest right now. The fact that I'm having troubles renewing my lease, as well as with some security issues here, and of course the sewage backup on top of it. So I'm just kind of testing my options at the moment. But worst comes to worst, I'll have to move out at the end of my lease cycle, which would be sort of the last resort thing to do. And then probably stay with one of my parents for a while till I can get back up on my feet. But it's probably going to take some time. So we will likely won't have the full streaming setup if that were to happen. But I'm not too worried about that. We can always set up a little portable streaming setup to do a stream a couple times a week. There's workarounds. There's workarounds for everything. So I'm not terribly worried about that, to be honest. As long as I don't somehow lose access to anything here on Facebook or YouTube, then I'd say we're golden. We can always overcome adversity. If I can do it, you guys can do it as well. Just like during the floods as well. It's going to be a huge recovery process, but everyone does recover eventually. And it's always good to have some help by your side also. Having some help goes a very long ways. Yeah, there's your daily wisdom for the day. Come on, her. Need to render a little bit faster here. Just a little bit. We don't have a super long attention span over here. Thank you, William Gatlin, for that $20 super duper. He says, Merry Christmas. Really appreciate that, sir. Thank you for the kind words. Looking at the total snow amount on the NWS total snow amount on Thursday, 4 a.m. to Friday at 4 a.m. shows snow in Whatcom County near Linden in the Canadian border. Yeah, I guess while we're waiting for the herd to run, let's go look at some model runs up there and see what they show for snow depth. Although these are lower resolutions, so they're not really going to adjust to the terrain contours as well as I would hope for. Yeah, that the Europeans not too sold on it. Europeans not sold on it for sure. And the GFS is just going to look like someone splattered paint on it. Yeah, see, the resolution here is becoming an issue. It's probably something on the high res. See, does the national blend of models show snow? Total snowfall, yes. Let's see what the NBM has to show for that. Oh, on Seattle forecast graphics. You might have a case here on the national blend of models. Some of those higher hills, Sumas Mountain, for example. So I feel like it may be overdoing this area a little bit. Even if it's a 1/10 of an inch, I feel like this is a little bit overdone right now based on what I'm seeing here. This is one of the high-res models that the NWS uses. It's an ensemble of their main model infrastructure, which is then averaged out in the one solution like this. But yeah, sure, let's go check out the Seattle Weather Forecast Office. They have some pretty neat graphics as well. Here, I just have to find the graphics. It should be easy. I swear, it should be easy. I'm just firing a blank right now. Graphical forecast, perhaps? Maybe. I'll think around with this, because this is actually my first time seeing this part of the site. I know usually they show graphics up here at the top, don't they, by default? At least usually. Yeah, see, the lack of flood alerts here is a great sigh of relief. And we have the winter weather advisory for the Cascade passes here, Central Cascade, South Cascade passes. And we have the winter storm warning for the North Cascade passes. This also includes some of the higher elevations here of Whatcom County. Up in here, as well as Skagit, too, around the Sauk and the Skagit river valleys here, and the Baker River Valley, too. What's happening? Look at the local forecast graphics. Ah, yes, I did miss this. You're right, I did miss this. Heat risk, not there. Precipitation. Let's go to daily snow accumulation. Yeah, you're right, Keith. This is an official NWS graphic here. Could have just a tad bit of snow up here in areas like Linden, Sumas, maybe. This is Thursday 4 a.m. to Friday 4 a.m., just like Keith said. And then snow levels as well, minimum snow levels. Yep. All right, snow level could be around 700 feet. Day 5, Linden. But you notice one thing, the snow level doesn't go below 1,500 feet, really, for the SeaTac area over the next 7 days. The day 1, over 2,000 feet. Day 2, just below 2,000 feet. Day 3, hanging around 1,900 or so for an average. Day 4 is the lowest, but still not even close to sea level here. Yeah, not looking good for snow the next week, at least according to the National Weather Service. Exactly like Keith said. So what's happening? Yeah, we were looking at snow forecasts first off, but the priority for this stream is to look at the wind forecast. And again, depending on your model of choice, there's some areas of interest we'll have to keep our eyes on. See, like Wednesday in particular. Will the storm system move through? Will it actually move through, or will it move off to the east? Or will it move off too far to the west also? That is the question. We have a system moving almost parallel along the coast from south to north off the coast of California onto Oregon and then into western Washington, very likely. And this is about an 8 millibar gradient from Tacoma to Longview, which is pretty decent. And the pressure rise, a pretty steep pressure rise here, around 996 in Tacoma to about 1007. That's a crazy pressure rise if that were to actually happen. But that's over 3 hours. It's not over 1 hour. Yeah, that is $1 million question, like Keith said. So it goes from about 996 millibars to around 1007 millibars in 3 hours. That's about an average of just shy of 4 millibars per hour, which is a little less than we saw on, what was it already? Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I think it was, with that big windstorm that we had overnight. A little bit less than that, but still a pretty substantial pressure rise behind this area of low pressure when it moves from south to north. But right now, only the European and its AI counterpart are ones showing anything really similar to this solution. You know, we have to wait until high-res model guidance shows up beginning sometime around tomorrow afternoon. In the meantime, we're really watching out for tomorrow, because tomorrow, you may not know, the north coast here and the northwest interior, including Island and San Juan counties, and northwestern Snohomish, western Skagit, and western Whatcom counties are in wind advisories beginning at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour out of the south along the coast, out of the southeast here inland, as that cold front comes through. So here comes that cold front. Not too much of a pressure rise behind it. This is about 1006 millibars here, and then 3 hours later, it hasn't risen that much. So we go look at winds around the area. See, according to the European, it's not going to be super impactful. The foothills get spared this time around. At least the King County foothills likely get spared. In the South Snohomish County foothills, like Gold Bar, Sultan, Index, for example, likely won't get too much wind with this, at least according to the European. This is why I'm waiting for the rest of the high-res models to come out tonight, including the 0Z HER, which is currently running on the press at the moment, and it's almost in the range. Almost. Then we can see wind gusts on an hourly basis in high resolution. See, it's getting pretty close now. Let's compare the trend to the 23Z. Again, it looks like we corrupted it there. So 23Z. Yeah, that's right, because it's only out to 18 hours on this. So we don't have a fair comparison to the last 23Z here. But you see, it does uptrend a bit. I'm going to go over it one more time. It does uptrend a bit for Seattle and Everett from run to run. This is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So we'll have to compare the rest of it to the 18Z HER. As you guys saw, there's an uptrend. It moves the front a little bit further inland at the same time. So at 2 p.m. on the 18Z, I had the front off the coast here of Long Beach, directly over Hoquiam. But at 2 p.m. on the 0Z, it has the front further inland here. So you're right around Elma McCleary area moving in east. So it has the front coming in sooner. And see, it has Tacoma getting up to 43 mile per hour gusts. Which again, this is likely going to be on the high side of things. It's a little on the high side for our last wind event. Thursday afternoon around this area. Thursday afternoon and nighttime. It's on the high side for this area, but it got outdone over the northwest inland waters here. It would be hitting a 67 mile per hour wind gust. Yeah, right now I'm not seeing anything too major for Enumclaw. Point Roberts looks like 40 miles per hour-ish. Yeah, a little bit above that in this model run. And I want to compare it to the 0Z NAM when it comes out, before I really make an updated forecast tonight. If we look at simulated radar, the HRRR usually overdoes reflectivity most of the time, so it may be showing the front coming in a little bit too strong here. It's a little heads up. It's not always accurate on that, but ooh yeah, let's compare that to the 18Z. Jeez, look at that. Big time boost in winds. 4 p.m. tomorrow, the HRRR 3KM 0Z run has almost 50 miles per hour for Tacoma. Hopefully that doesn't happen like that. The 18Z showed something similar, but an hour later, with a little less wind. So the 0Z has a bit of a faster propagation on this front as it moves in. But what will it show for frame 25 when it comes out? Will it show the same, or will it show less? Because I highly doubt it's going to show more. And we can find out right now. See, it shows less. So it has the front moving in an hour quicker on the newest run of the HRRR right here. So right now it looks like prime time for tomorrow, at least according to this model run. It's going to be around 4 p.m. plus or minus 2 hours to be on the safe side. So really anywhere between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Could get quite breezy, and these winds are mostly going to be out of the south, as seen here. Due south for most of the area. It's showing sustained winds over the Puget Sound at 4 p.m. of right there, gale force. 35 knots, that is gale force winds. Right down there, central Puget Sound, just off of Seattle here. West Point, Alki Point even. Showing wind gusts of gale force right there. Anything on ocean shores? Well, your winds are going to be out of the west, but you currently right now do not have a wind advisory. Off ocean shores, it shows southerly to southwest winds. Gale force or higher by noon tomorrow with gusts. Looks like your gusts are a little bit on the high side here. They could expand this wind advisory overnight or tomorrow morning, just as a heads up. This isn't set in stone yet. We all saw how the NWS kind of freaked out and put out that wind advisory for the whole area on Thursday, and it didn't verify for most of us down here. The winds just weren't up to that par. Or they were a little bit... some of the strongest winds on Thursday actually came after the advisory expired, especially here in Milton and Federal Way. We got some pretty potent wind gusts after the advisory had already expired overnight, which I was like, shake my head on that one. Yeah, it's showing some strong wind gusts over 50 for ocean shores. But again, this is one model run we're working with. So I think the NWS needs a little bit more to see before they consider expanding that wind advisory. Hey there, Kim Leonard, welcome in. What's going to happen to Enumclaw Buckley the next few days? Looks a little breezy for you tomorrow. Nothing major, but definitely a noticeable breeze for Enumclaw. The winds out of the south. Yeah, I don't see anything terribly major for that area. It's going to be Wednesday, though, that I'm paying more attention to. Yeah, we're not close enough in high-res model range to see that quite yet. But let me show you again on the European here. This is what the European shows for our system tomorrow. See, not too much to worry about, unless you're over Whidbey Island, of course. Or along the coast. Hey there, Sonia. Welcome in. This is what it shows for Wednesday, though, on the other hand. Wednesday, that could bring quite a big blow to Enumclaw in the foothills for several hours, with Enumclaw getting close to 50-mile-per-hour gusts. Ivan Becerra says, how much wind for the Everett area? Well, Everett area, you are just outside of the wind advisory for tomorrow right now. Wind advisory just to your north of you for Arlington and Stanwood goes into effect at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and it's in effect until 7 p.m. tomorrow. There's a wind advisory for the coasts of Clallam and Jefferson counties as well. Starts at 10 a.m. but only goes to 4 p.m. right now. Southerly winds for the coast, southeasterly winds inland here over the Salish Sea. And southerlies for the Puget Sound. But right now, the NWS doesn't see enough model guidance to warrant issuing a wind advisory for the greater Puget Sound area. At least not yet. But I will be on alert for in case that does happen. And, be sure if you're on Facebook, be sure to watch out for that update on Facebook. Or if you're on Patreon as well. Because remember, if you don't have Facebook, you can follow me on Patreon, Puget Sound Stormwatch, on Patreon as well. I cross-post my blogs over there as well. So, for winds across the Everett area, on Monday, go back to high-res guidance here, since we're in range of that. Only basing this off the HRRR model right now, but winds for your area could be particularly breezy as the sun goes down tomorrow. Thankfully, today's the solstice, so it's the shortest day of the year, and we only start getting brighter at this time from that point on to the summer solstice, of course. There's the ding. Okay, it's just a continuation of the winter weather alerts for the mountains. But I'm on standby to see if they put out a wind advisory, possibly. It's on the outside end of the realm of possibility right now, but they could put a wind advisory out for the Puget Sound tomorrow. Or at least some parts like the Everett area in particular. But this is just based on one model that the NWS doesn't always use. They usually use their national blend of models down here, or their short range ensemble forecast, or SREF. They also use a high resolution ensemble forecast, HREF, as well. But the NWS has their model favorites that they usually use for that. Timing for Wednesday gusts. Right now, anytime between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. That's all I can tell you right now because we're outside of high-res range right now. We have to get within at least 60 hours. So I'm hoping if it's a little earlier onset, we should know by tomorrow morning, pretty early. That's only if it's going to be a little earlier onset than what it's showing right now. The timing's still kind of bouncing around a little bit. Tides plus wind should make interesting things along the shoreline. Yes, of course. We'll make things interesting, especially for San Juan County, where that coastal flood advisory is in effect tomorrow morning for some minor tidal overflow. Very minor overflow at best. And then it shows conditions still being a bit breezy around the area after that front comes through. Likely Monday afternoon. Could be late in the morning on Monday. We still not 100% sure on the timing of this because the timing's been fluctuating run to run here on the HRRR. So you see the HRRR sets the front back an hour in the last run, but then sets it forward an hour here in the most recent run. There's still some kinks that need to be worked out here. 27 viewers, 27 likes here on YouTube. And 21 viewers and 65 likes or reactions on Facebook Again, hello everyone, Anthony here, Puget Sound Stormwatch. Doing a little more of an impromptu live stream tonight. I usually don't live stream on Sundays. But with multiple factors like the Seahawks not playing today, and also the wind advisory being issued for tomorrow, and the combination of being flustered with having some raw sewage back up into my kitchen sink this morning, which kind of soiled my day a bit, not gonna lie. Definitely made my day a little stale. For sure. But, you know, I decided we're going to hop on to the stream and we're going to talk about some things weather. You know, while also not trying to rant too much about outside life here. Yeah, if this HRRR model were to verify, it would show 45 to 50 mile per hour gusts tomorrow afternoon around 4 p.m. here for the Central Sound. But I think this is a little too high right now. You could probably shave 10 miles per hour off of this and that'll be a little more accurate, which is still around 35 to 40 miles per hour, ideally. Even if we do shave off that 10 miles per hour. Just a little safety net, usually. But I want to wait to see what the 0Z NAM shows, which hasn't begun rendering yet. We also have an experimental model we can use too. This is the one that's going to take over the NAM, I believe, sometime in the first or second quarter of next year. This is the Rapid Refresh Forecast System, or RRFS. This one goes out to 84 hours, but again, experimental. So to be taken with a grain of salt. But it does show the windy conditions just 2 hours later than the HRRR does over much of the area. Again, experimental, not to be used as a forecast. Still shows 40 to 45 here over Tacoma and Seattle, surrounding areas. Even shows upwards of 50, close to 50 up here in Bellingham. But again, before I go too far, just got to say this is an experimental model. Take it with a grain of salt. You know, there's a few other cam models we can use as well, but these aren't always going to be the most accurate. I don't usually use these for forecasting much. I think it probably overdoes it quite a bit here for Port Townsend area where it gets close to 60. It has it much earlier in the afternoon too. I don't think this model is going to verify. In my honest opinion. See what the National Severe Storms Laboratory HRW WRF wants to say. What does it say? Oh no, it's pretty close to what its counterpart's saying. All of these models show winds 40 plus miles per hour likely sometime tomorrow afternoon. That's the agreement between all of these models, regardless. The HRW FV3 HIRAS model. Okay, really, except for that one by the looks of it. That one doesn't quite have 40 for the Puget Sound area. Yeah, we're still a little ways out from having the NAM model render. Thing about the HRRR too is it shows these little cells coming ashore that could be producing some strong winds. Probably some squall segments coming in after the front. Sometime tomorrow afternoon or Tuesday morning. And then we'll have to watch this as well when this comes in. Will this bring wind Tuesday? Actually, we're not even on the right model. Darn it. Okay. No, that's for Monday. Now we're looking at the Tuesday morning, and now you see things calm down. So just kind of just kind of faked myself out on that one. Drinking a lot more water today so far. That's a good sign. Trying to stay to some healthy habits as we go into the new year. Yeah, here comes that front right now. The front's passing directly over Bellingham with some heavy rain showers in some areas. Through Abbotsford, Linden, Ferndale, Bellingham, moving into Sumas right now. There is some heavy rain within that front up there. You can see it coming in here on radar scope as well. Probably, yeah, you can see it much better here on the Alder Grove radar. Up there in Canada, you can see this wind shift right there. Yeah, that's the front about to pass through Bellingham. Keith, if you're still watching, let me know what happens when that front passes by you. And here's the bottom end of the front approaching Olympia right now, but again, not looking super robust. A little bit less than average from what we're usually used to when the front comes through. Yeah, it could feel windy for a little bit. The rain could be heavy, but it overall doesn't look too impressive. Nothing out of the ordinary that we're not used to. Oh, lost a follower. That's sad. Yeah, we had that wind shift here at Hoquiam, so the front has definitely passed Hoquiam, without a doubt. The front's about to pass Shelton soon, and then Olympia, and then we'll see those wind barbs likely flip to out of the west or out of the northwest. The wind currently out of the southwest or the south-southwest at this time, over there. You see some showers coming up the I-5 corridor right now, probably not making for a fun commute here around the Tacoma area. My area is in a little bit of a dry slot right now, but that's going to be coming to an end here very shortly. Yeah, folks, that's about all I wanted to talk about today. Just waiting for some high-res model runs to come out. That's pretty much the gist of things, just talking about that wind advisory and talking about Wednesday's forecast as well. I've been posting about Wednesday on my subscribers tab as well as my my premium Patreon tab as well, if you guys want to consider checking that out. Again, if you guys want to subscribe on Patreon, I do have a 7-day free trial for you guys to check out. I do also have free blog posts as well that are open to the public. I do post usually once a day to the paid section as well. So I'd like to give a shout out to all of my patrons who have pledged over on Patreon, as well as all my new subscribers here on Facebook as well. Thank you guys. This wouldn't be possible without all of you today. All right, let's see here. Just note too that the landslide risk is still elevated too. The NWS is still putting out landslide alerts. Even this afternoon, we have a new one that was issued here. This is for all zones here in Western Washington. They're just basically reiterating what they've been saying over the last 2 weeks or so. Again, all zones in the forecast warning area here. The heavy rainfall over the past week has led to an increased threat of landslides in Western Washington. How about Shelton area? So far, no wind advisory for you, but the Shelton area could get quite windy tomorrow as well as Wednesday. We're watching Wednesday closer, though, for a potent system that could be coming in. But yeah, it's looking like wind gusts around the Shelton area will probably be. This isn't going to go all the way out to Wednesday right now, but let's look at tomorrow right now for your area. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's highlight the Shelton area right about there. Actually doesn't have your area getting super windy tomorrow. Right now, this model doesn't have you getting over 35 at around 2 p.m. or so. But it could kick up quite a bit around the Central Sound here, Central Southern Sound. Mainly over the water, it could kick up quite a bit, but it doesn't look like Shelton gets hit very hard with this system that comes through. Let's look at total precipitation during this time also. See, most of the precipitation begins falling as that system comes through. And then things start to kind of stall out as we go into noon the next day, before Wednesday's system. So likely by the end of the morning Tuesday, these are what we could see for rainfall amounts around the area. You notice very potent rain shadow over its normal area. Northeastern Qualam, northeastern Jefferson, through Island, San Juan, parts of western Skagit counties here. Likely not getting much above a quarter of an inch of rain over the next 44 hours as of right now. But down here, around a half an inch or greater, Seattle, Tacoma, even Olympia getting around 3/4 of an inch. But again, the mountains take the brunt of this precip. The Willapa Hills also. These little streaks here, these could be some stronger showers that bring locally heavy rainfall amounts in a very localized area. Again, local area. You see these streaks, little streaks that form. These are probably individual showers coming through. And we can't count out the possibility of maybe some hail and possibly some lightning also. Let's see what the lightning forecast says. It definitely has a shot Monday afternoon. According to this model run, it shows we have a shot of some isolated lightning. It's very, very marginal at best, but there is a shot. It's non-zero, that's for sure. Best chance, of course, is going to be along the coast, though, earlier in the day. But it seems it's going to be a pretty conditional risk right now. See, the HRRR, which does overdo radar reflectivity sometimes, does have some rather potent cells making landfall before that front does tomorrow. So, some areas as early as 5 a.m. tomorrow morning could have some hail, maybe even an outside chance of thunder waking you up early in the morning. But we're really watching that frontal passage at around 3 p.m. tomorrow, roughly. Yeah, see, winds have pretty much died down for the time being. Even within that front there, we're not seeing terribly much. Very weak front coming through tonight. It's more so the front tomorrow and Wednesday system again that we're keeping close eyes on. We're almost about ready to begin the 0Z NAM rendering process. Oh boy. All right, guys, just popping some knuckles here. The HUR even hints at a convergence zone forming up here over Skagit County, too. After that front comes through on Monday. It's a little bit hard to tell right now here on this model run right here. But that could be a little convergence zone forming well north of where it usually does. Because again, the flow aloft is going to be out of the southwest, not the west this time around. So we could see a convergence zone form farther north than we're used to as a result. The winds again wrapping around the Olympics and reconverging over this area. You know, the winds can't go north, they can't go south, they can't go west, they can't go east. They can only go up. And that's how a convergence zone forms, from forced ascent. You know, air being forced up. Especially a moist parcel of air being forced up. If it's a dry parcel, you're not going to get a convergence zone. But if it's a moist parcel, then definitely. You'll have the moisture needed to form those showers. Again, while we have everyone here on the stream, to give a huge shout out to all of our donators today. Shout out to Doppler Dave 211 and Will Gatlin 25 on YouTube for your super chats. Thank you for those. And thank you, Ken Moffat, here on Facebook for your donation of 5,000 stars. An early Christmas present. Thank you so much for that. And if you guys appreciated the weather coverage the last 2 weeks, you know, don't forget about your friend here in Milton. If you guys would like to send a generous Christmas present, feel free. I'm not going to tell you no, but I'm also not going to force you to. But if you guys enjoyed this coverage and want to see additional coverage going into the next year, feel free. Okay, 0Z NAM or 0Z HUR is done, and there goes the 0Z NAM right behind it. Perfect timing. This one will go out to 60 hours, so this should be just on the tail end of Wednesday morning, like just on the tail end. I think this started around 4 p.m. Should go out to about 4 a.m. Wednesday, I think, if I did that math correctly. To go out 60 hours from now. Should be about 4 a.m. Wednesday. Yes. 4 a.m. Wednesday or so, just on the outside of it. While we need 1 or 2 more runs to get in the range to really begin making an emphasis on what could happen on Wednesday around here. Basically, for any of you guys who missed it, we could have another windstorm on Christmas Eve. I know it's the last thing you guys want to hear, but possibilities are there. I'll show you guys that forecast one more time again here in just a second. Tell you, this could be what we're dealing with. This area over the foothills, 50+ mile per hour winds working their way into the Puget Sound as well. And the European, which usually is the closest, even if it underdoes a little bit, usually the closest for wind speeds around here. It doesn't usually bust. Sometimes it does, though. Sometimes it does, but usually does not. And it shows around 56 miles per hour for Seattle in vicinity. Maybe a little higher off to the south, too. You know, so this is what we're watching for Wednesday, primarily in the afternoon. But we're not close enough in the high res range yet. We're not even in high res range yet to get some more precise details for you guys. Yeah, again, watching a little sneaker storm right up from California. I'll zoom out and show you guys the view on that. See, somewhere down here off the coast, there's that system right off Cape Mendocino there. And it begins to deepen a little bit and then ride up the Oregon coast. And then it loses its strength just that bit. And then that begins to move into the area, brings a pressure gradient. Probably a pretty substantial pressure rise right behind it too. Just something to watch very closely. This is a little bit of an unusual storm track that we're used to. Usually these come out of the southwest, like this, or they come out of the west. Sometimes out of the northwest also. But never usually close to due south. You know, this is more south-southwest, but still kind of an unusual direction that we're normally accustomed to around here. But that's a pretty substantial pressure gradient. That's let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 millibars between Tacoma and Longview. That's pretty significant. If the storm holds its strength as it moves off into Canada, which it probably won't hold it at full strength, then we could see a pretty substantial pressure rise over a couple of hours behind that low pressure system. And that would bring some nasty wind to some of us. Wednesday afternoon, most likely. Just giving you guys the early heads up right now. As soon as we get high resolution data within range of Wednesday afternoon, then I will make the forecast public. And just make sure we're getting all the comments here. Been a while since I've seen any new comments. Yeah, we're up to date on Facebook. Make sure YouTube's still working all right. Looks like it is. All right, yeah, looks like we're all good there. Again, in case you're just tuning in and may have missed it, we're watching a little sneaker storm possibly on Christmas Eve. Coming up the coast and moving into western Washington almost from the south. But some other models don't show this solution. GFS, for example. The GFS throws it off into eastern Washington and eastern Oregon, misses us entirely. And funny enough, it also brings snow to us on Christmas Eve, but I don't think this is going to happen. There's a very unlikely chance that this will happen. It's the GFS we're talking about. There is a chance. Again, there is a chance. It's non-zero, but unlikely to happen like that. Let's see what the Euro AI shows again. Yeah, see, the AI has it riding up from the due south along the coast. But the pressure rise is farther west of us, so it likely won't affect us as much inland, except if you're over the water in this solution. But if we were to average out with the AI and the traditional European show, it brings a pretty nice system directly through western Washington, either way. Around 987 millibars with a very localized cold front feature here on the east side of it, riding up the coast. I just wish we could see wind gusts on here, but they don't currently support that at the moment. Yeah, 0Z NAM's currently rendering. We're only out to 8 hours at, okay, 9 hours now at this time. We still have quite a ways to go to see what we want to look for. And that is mainly right now, we're looking at tomorrow afternoon. Because again, we do have that wind advisory in effect for some of our region, some of it, but not the Puget Sound, at least not yet. All right, no new comments. That's okay. Anyone watching right now, do you have any additional questions for me? Let's see, we've been going for about just shy of an hour and a half. I think YouTube might have just done the nasty again and froze on me. So let me go check my comment section real quick. If I'm missing comments, sorry about that. I just noticed my counter stopped counting 26 minutes ago. Sorry, YouTube. Wow. Let's go again, YouTube. Hang on, folks. I'm going to bring up your comments here. I just noticed this. So check out your comments again one more time. Oh yeah, I missed out a lot of comments. Sorry, guys. YouTube, again, is just giving me some problems here. How far back do we go on this? This keeps on coming. Light breeze here in Everett. Yeah, please subscribe. Often this is life-saving information. Yeah, I missed your comments from about 25 minutes ago, guys. Sorry about that. Been having a lot of issues with YouTube streaming right now. Like, YouTube is just completely whiffing it on the streamer front right now. So I think for the rest of the stream, however long I go, I'm just gonna have to keep your comments up here on mobile, because right now, again, we're having issues with the streaming platform here on PC, which is not what I wanted to see tonight. So I apologize if I missed your comments before, but yeah, we're again having some issues with YouTube. Go figure. You see, power outage yesterday, San Francisco area. They said millions had no power. Yeah, I did hear about that. The self-driving cars stopped working. After the damage that I've seen from the last windstorm, I'm done for a while. Never thought I would say that. Fair enough. Totally fair enough. Yeah, the issues are on YouTube. Facebook appears to be fine right now, but I'm having issues here on YouTube. So I just pulled up the mobile platform. I'm watching on another channel, but I'm watching my live stream. So yeah, I noticed that my comments froze like a half hour ago. I was like, no comments coming in for a while. And then I realized, oh wait, my timer's stuck at 121 and I've been streaming for about an hour 50 or so. Like, that's not right. Something's wrong. And then sure enough, it clicked in my head. I thought, oh yeah, YouTube's doing its little thing again that it was doing before. Dash of Ash 1337 says, no more win, please. I'll see what I can do, but no guarantees. Ooh, that was a rhyme there. Yeah, so the NAM, we're out to 15 hours. This is 7 a.m. tomorrow. We can start to see the frontal boundary here. Will the timing and strength be similar to what the HRRR shows? That will be the question to answer here very shortly. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any supers either. don't believe so. So, perfect. Almost within range. Need about probably 9 more frames. I need to get out to about hour 24 to have a reliable hypothesis of what's coming. So still a few more frames to go, and then we can make that conjecture on here. Let's see the winds start picking up here, 9 a.m. tomorrow. You know, sharply things start picking up here out of the southeast too, over the waters. See a little zoomed in view right now. The front just off the coast at 9 a.m. Comments freeze on my end often, frustrating. Yeah, I agree. Again, same issue I've been having for the last week or so on YouTube repeatedly, where the stream crashed on my end a whopping 4 times during 2 different streams. And I actually had to restart the stream one time because it got too out of hand. But for now, I'm just gonna keep the comments on mobile right now, for the rest of this stream. Going to get going, need to do some studying. Sounds good, Keith. Have a great night. Thanks again for tuning in. Just refresh Facebook as well, because I've had issues with Facebook comments in the past, but no, it just looks like Facebook's slowing down for the night. Yeah, we're still hanging around 20 viewers there. We have, what, 26 viewers here on YouTube? Perfect. Oddly enough, my analytics are still working on the YouTube side, but my comments all froze. And my live stream, it says it froze at exactly an hour 21. And my previews also frozen too. Nope, never mind. I just wasn't moving right there. Let's see what Ashley says. Hang on. Hope this wind doesn't stop the tree service from taking the tree leaning towards my house down tomorrow. Got lucky and found someone that would help us out on really small payments. That is great news to hear, Ashley. That is great news. But yeah, hopefully no interruptions tomorrow. Definitely can't afford to have that happen. I agree with you there. Right now, the wind just doesn't look super impactful, which is good news initially. But I'll have to wait for the rest of this model run to play out here. Right now, it's looking like the NAM's going to be a little bit behind compared to the HER. So it could hold off till the nighttime for some of the stronger winds here around the Puget Sound tomorrow. Again, not looking terribly strong. I have to reiterate that. It's not looking like last week's, like, to any extent. But could be noticeably breezy at times around much of the area. Very well could be. That I can say with definite confidence. Yeah, it's always good to see people that can work around too. As long as they don't cut corners, but if they can do workarounds, especially financially, then that's definitely a blessing in disguise. Going to see if we get any updates from the National Weather Service on here, but right now, nothing. All right, guys, any more questions while we're up and waiting for some frames to render here? Yeah, this is when the front starts moving onto the coast around 3 p.m. I think this is a little bit behind the Her. We're already running the next run of the Her. Let's see, 3 p.m. Yeah, it's quite a ways behind where the Her was showing. The Her 3 km already has the front moving into Olympia by 3 p.m. But the NAM has the front just moving on the coast at 3 p.m. So the NAM sets things back. So we still kind of have a little disagreement on the timing of this frontal system tomorrow, which is not what I wanted to see, really. I just hope we had about plus or minus a 1 hour difference at most. But this is likely going to be about a 3 to maybe 4 hour difference between model runs. Actually, the tree guy that took down the 6 behind our house right after the October storm wanted to help us out, and we know he is a good person, very, very good at what he does. Now I just have to give away all this firewood. Yeah, there's a pretty good market out there for firewood right now. You could get away with selling quite a bit of it for a good price. If you really wanted to. Yeah, I personally would not want to live around that many trees. In my honest opinion. Probably not my cup of tea. Heard there was a potential storm Christmas Eve. Yeah, it's one we've been talking about here. But there's still quite a bit of substantial disagreement on it. So I'll go pull that up one more time for you real quick. It's for Zaina King here on Facebook. Yeah, see, this could be what we're looking at. This is the European, which usually does pretty good justice when it comes to forecasting winds around here. But there's still some swing on exactly where the system's going to go. Some models take it east of the Cascades, some bring it way farther west. Some don't even have this surviving up here in Washington. But yeah, this is Christmas Eve, but overall, Christmas looks rather calm around here. At least when it comes to wind. Yeah, just passing showers Christmas Day by the looks of it. Wind relatively calm. So I think Christmas overall is going to be pretty calm around here. So check cloud cover. It's most likely going to be cloudy during the day Christmas. Probably either some low-level fog or just some overcast. But overall, I think the winds may be a problem on Wednesday, but we're still not 100% sold that that's going to be the solution yet. Let's see, there's a nasty pressure gradient coming up here on the European model. So much as an 11 millibar pressure rise over 3 hours for some areas, which is almost 4 millibars per hour average, which is definitely not something to sweat about, or not something to really take lightly. You know, it would bring some substantial winds to some areas, for sure, 100%. But it's not an exact forecast yet. We need the short range models to begin lining up. And we're just not having that lineup right now. Well, if you know anyone, I've got around 600 plus feet of Douglas fir that needs to go, and I'm not picky on price. Hey, if any of you want to follow up with a dash of ash 1337 here on YouTube, feel free. So yeah, this is Christmas Eve. This is around 4 p.m. or so, Christmas Eve. This is going to be a quick moving system too. It's going to be in and out of here in just a few hours, most likely. But the wind could stick around for around 6 hours, though. Again, this is only one solution, but it has been showing it for several model runs, too. Just at different strengths and slightly different positions. But you see the gradient's still there. This is yesterday's 18Z. This is today's 18Z. Pretty impressive run-to-run agreement here on the European, which you do want to see. But you also want to see some agreement between the European and the American. Also, which the American model brings it all the way over to Eastern Washington. Like nowhere even close to us. And you guys on YouTube just tuning in too, testing out a few new features. For example, I just got my store approved to be linked here on YouTube. Puget Sound Stormwatch store. And I have the shirt design, the men's t-shirt design currently pinned here on the video if you guys want to look at that. Freezing rain for my area is bad. Yeah, freezing rain for anywhere is bad. As a matter of fact, I think the GFS was showing snow here Christmas Eve. But the European's not even close. So if you want snow and not wind, go for the GFS. But if you want wind and not snow, go for the European. You know, I just wish there was better agreement. Because we're about 60 to 72 hours out now, and there's still no model agreement whatsoever on what's coming Wednesday. Oh, you're talking about Port Angeles. Oh yeah. Yeah, then again, resolution is a problem on here. So that's likely going to be up in the mountains, but it's just bleeding out in the Port Angeles. So I wouldn't take this signal seriously. This is likely a terrain bleeding issue, which is normal for this model. We'll have to wait till we get in the high res range during this time to really see, but most likely it won't affect you with freezing rain in Port Angeles. Almost certain of that. Yeah, it's a huge issue with terrain, 100%. It's just the low resolution of models like the GFS and the ECMWF, aka the European, may show some of the snow or freezing rain reaching some of these lowlands or coastal spots. That's not always the case. Again, it's a resolution issue. This doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's close, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like this would show freezing rain down here over the Snohomish-Skagit County line. That's likely to be up in the higher elevations here. Again, I take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, again, tomorrow's system comes through, brings heavy mountain snow along with it, steady rain to the lowlands, and then that system comes through on Wednesday. Still quite a bit of ambiguity on exactly what's going to happen with that. Yeah, very interesting. This is true. This is very much true. Guys, starting for the new year, I eventually want to start up my daily briefings again. Got, a little bit of questions about what I'm going to do for my living situation coming up. So, with this sewage backup that I had today, as well as other things going on around the apartment complex, like car break-ins now. Not quite sure if this is the place I really want to be long term. This seems to be going a little downhill here, which is sad because it seemed like a great community when I moved in here. But it seems to be going downhill really quick, especially with the management. A lot of people are having issues with the management here, and that's just not something that I want to really associate with. So I'm considering my options here. I wouldn't be able to move into another apartment. It would be either move back in with family where I was before, stay with another family member, or rent a room with a friend somewhere. That's pretty much what it would be. But even if the setup has to go portable, I'd really like to bring those briefings to you starting next year. But there's just a lot of questions that need to be answered here. But the most likely thing that does happen is I stay where I am and hopefully get my lease renewed, even though I'm having issues with that too. But I'm not going to talk too much about outside life. This is about the weather in particular. Oh man, that's not good. Where are you considering? Yeah, so I'm in the Milton area right now. So I'm in Milton, Washington. I'm just east of Tacoma here on the hill, basically due east of Tacoma, between Federal Way and Puyallup up here on the hill. I'd love to stay in this area. This is a really nice area, but it seems to be going a little downhill since then. Since I started moving in, because the population's increasing, and you know what that means. That means you start bringing in more crime as well. Yeah, like Sonia said, the Clevy 86, we're glad to have you here for sure. Need a big dog, yeah. Not in this apartment complex. They're very strict about dog breeds here. Very strict. Yeah, I have 3 big dogs back at my previous house, which would probably be the number one option to move back in, if I'm being honest. Even though things are going super well there, but I'm not going to go into more detail than that. That's as much detail as I'm going to go into. Yeah, let's go check out that NAM, shall we? That NAM is well in range now for wind gusts around the area. Let's make sure we're on the 0Z here. This goes out to 35 hours right now. It's not terrible. It is showing some stronger winds down here in Pierce County, but it's not showing as strong as the HRRR this time around. This is at 5 p.m. compared to the HRRR at this time. It shows the front has already passed through at this time. At 5 p.m., the front's already passed. But on the NAM, the front is just passing through Olympia by that time. So the NAM's about 2 to 3 hours behind what the HRRR is showing here. So still a little bit of a time disagreement with this cold front coming in tomorrow. It'll probably be something that we have to watch closely in real time. Which means we could be hosting a live stream tomorrow also. I'll definitely think about it. Dachshund, they think they're big. Yeah, they think they're big. Winter break, might as well lose power. Says maybe Dapu. Wouldn't that be the time? Always gotta be someone with an opinion on Marketplace. You said that correctly. Yeah, the NAM still does bring some relatively strong gusts through the Central Sound here. Greater Puget Sound area, 40 to 45 mile per hour gusts. But not upwards of 50 like the HRRR was showing. So who knows? Will this be enough guidance for the National Weather Service to put a wind advisory for us here in the Puget Sound too? It's a little too soon to tell. But if I had to guess, sometime beginning tomorrow morning will probably be the time they put out the wind advisory if they do. See, actually, you were able to sell some of your firewood today. That was the down payment on your tree removal. So have 6 trees worth sitting here. Jeez, Louise. Yeah, people, if you want wood, go ahead and hit up A Dash of Ash on YouTube or Ashley Getz here on Facebook. It's one of my subscribers also. Yeah, I think my list of subscribers grew over 25% since the beginning of this event started about 2 weeks ago. This nonstop weather, we've gained about 20% more, 20 to 25% more subscribers here on Facebook. So thank you guys for continuing to subscribe. It really does help a lot, truly. And I post a lot of interesting information there on the sub page as well. And I really want to get back to posting more behind the scenes on my Superfans group for subscribers too. Because right now it's really just talking about welcoming new members and early live stream notifications. But when I go live suddenly like this, I don't really have the time to put it out in a timely manner, as in like over an hour ahead of time, because I just suddenly decided to go live like a half hour before I did. You think the 70-mile-per-hour wind gust with the system around Christmas Eve is bogus? For if you're talking about for us, I believe yes. I believe we maybe get 60 plus or around 60 tops for some areas. 70 for Oregon isn't out of the question though. Oregon, especially Northwest Oregon, could get whooped by this next system realistically. It's entirely in the realm of possibility. Let's see, we're at frame 39. Yeah, it's going to go out the 4 a.m. Wednesday, just on the tail end of that event once it's all done. So we're going to need probably 2 more runs of that to really have an idea. He says, all right, perfect. All right, folks. Yeah, no White Christmas likely. Robert Christian show. Unlikely, but not impossible. Let's go look at some spreads on wind gusts, too. And you're going to see some pretty impressive spreads with the system that comes in. Numbers on the left are the 10th percentile, most likely to happen, and the numbers on the right are the 90th percentile, the least likely to happen. So the averages are going to be around 35 to 40. This is courtesy of 50 ensemble members plus a control run using European data imagery and then averaged out into one solution. So the averages are going to be around, again, 35 to 40 for this area. So still pretty high averages, which is a little bit of a concern for Wednesday. Not looking terribly strong. Of course, it depends on your point of view on the thing. Sure thing. You're very welcome for the plug, Ashley. But you know, if you guys could plug me for Christmas as well, that would be very much appreciated. And by that, I mean any one-time voluntary donations. Again, if you're interested, not a requirement. You want to send supers here on YouTube, stars on Facebook, or coffees. Again, this is a link to my site, ko-fi.com, coffee/Puget Sound Stormwatch. This would be the best way to donate. Unfortunately, I do have a hold on my account through PayPal because they have to make sure all of these requests were fulfilled, which usually takes anywhere from a week to a month, unfortunately. But, you know, that just means that we've seen so much generosity that PayPal actually fell behind on it. So thank you guys so much for your generosity. Wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So yeah, the front has passed Bellingham now officially. And here comes the front for us. It's going to be a weaker front. Not looking like anything too strong, but it could be windy and rainy as this moves into the area. With the more east, the low center for the Christmas Eve storm mean the higher risk for snow west of the Cascades. Let us see here. I have to look at the European again for this. I need to check some temperatures aloft. Let's check surface temperatures for around that same time period. At least on the European, it still seems it may be a little too mild for that. It's a little too mild. Let's go check the GFS. The GFS has it east. probably have a better chance on the GFS some areas. See, it even has Everett getting down to freezing overnight on Friday. If we go look at precip type, I believe the GFS had some of this falling in the form of snow over us. Yeah, on the morning of Christmas Eve. See, the GFS, again, take this with a grain of salt. This most likely will not happen. Thank you for the super duper, a dash of ash 1337. Appreciate you. Thank you for the wonderful coverage. Can't send much, but you are awesome. That is just fine. Thank you so much for your donation, Ashley. Appreciate that. Low would bring down the cooler air. In theory, if we have the cooler air up here, then it would definitely help bring that cooler air down. But we have to make sure it doesn't get too close, or else we get too much marine influence. It just means mild air coming in off the Pacific. You know, you want the low to be down mainly off of Cape Disappointment and usually transverse us towards the southeast. It's usually the best bet. You know, we've seen similar happen back in 2021 with that snowstorm right after Christmas. You know, you just really need the favorable setup for that. And we just don't really have it this time around. Again, temperature at this time towards the surface is going to be very marginal. Yeah, the temperatures at 2,500 feet are right around freezing, so freezing points are not going to be low enough for that one, even with the system off to the east. Just your Arctic air is way too far north still, even on this GFS run. But the GFS says don't lose hope. Let's look at 850 millibar temperature anomaly here. Yeah, GFS says don't lose hope, but there's factors going against you here for sure. There's no confidence signal for snow right now. Yeah, it's unfortunate your super doesn't show up on my desktop side of things. That's a little disappointing. But I'm seeing it on my mobile, so appreciate that. Thank you again, Ashley, for your kind donation. And Merry Early Christmas to you as well. All right, folks, any additional questions? If not, we're going to begin to wrap things up for tonight. It's a little short, more casual stream this time around. We're not expecting any crazy severe weather, but we are watching out for Wednesday primarily for the chance of some impactful wind around this area, but details remain very much unclear. Again, if you're in the brown on this map here, you are in a wind advisory for tomorrow beginning at 10 a.m. For the coast here, it will expire at 4 p.m. And for the inland areas here, it will expire at 7 p.m. This includes San Juan Island, which is overlaid by this coastal flood advisory for tomorrow. And gale warning for the Salish Sea, including Discovery Bay and Squim Bay. Gale warning for tomorrow. Gale warning for the coastal waters. But no current advisories for the Strait of Juan de Fuca area here. And small craft advisories for the inland waters, including the Puget Sound and the Hood Canal. So again, our wind gusts around 30 knots or so about 35 miles per hour. Hope the snowpack continues to build. Yes. Might be a dumb question. Can winds blowing from the east to west push colder air off the Cascades to over the lowlands? No, because downsloping will always warm the winds. At least to my knowledge, downsloping will help warm the air mass. It'll warm it up and it will dry it out. At least from what I've seen historically, I don't think I've seen a case where downsloping winds have cooled the air mass. At the very least, dried it out, which is one thing you have to look out for when you have these troughs come through it as well. Will they drag enough dry air through the gaps to prevent snow accumulations from reaching the ground in the Puget Sound? Because that's a problem we have from time to time too. That's something that doesn't always go our way. Sometimes the air mass is too dry for snow to accumulate when we have those east winds turned on when we're getting the cold air and the moisture at the same time. It dries out the moist air map and we're stuck with an Arctic blast, but only the Arctic air, not the snow to follow with it. There's factors going against you on that. Yeah, sure thing, Ashley. Glad to help you out. But yeah, the snowpack is building, but will it stay like that? At least for the short term, it looks like yes. Especially the North Cascades where you see that pink contour right here. This is a winter storm warning. This is a winter weather advisory. A little bit of a lower criteria here. We could still build several inches to a couple of feet for some areas, including Mount Rainier, which is good news for sure. Yeah, ski resorts starting to flirt with openings. Especially, I've heard Mount Baker is getting ready to open, if it hasn't already opened. And potentially Crystal Mountain, but with that washout on 410, it's going to make things extremely difficult with that little one-way traffic signal going in and out. You know, so I expect travel up to Crystal Mountain will probably be disrupted quite a bit. Yeah. Mount Rainier could get a bit of snow at Paradise and Sunrise. I just wish you could access the northwest side of the park still on the road, but you know, we all know how that went. You can't, and probably won't be able to for a long time. But you can still hike it if you wanted to. If you want to take it to that extreme, feel free to hike it. You please post a Facebook post with what you do see for this week. Once we get some clearer details, yes. So expect a Facebook post hopefully by tomorrow morning on Wednesday. Just waiting for the NAM 3KM to get into range, which it won't be in range tonight. I believe by tomorrow morning we'll be just on the outskirts of that system on Wednesday. But since we don't have any high-res guidance to work with, I can't confidently write up a forecast. And if we have one outlier and I'm writing a forecast based on the one outlier, that's not a good image. But yes, I do see what you mean, Julie, when you say that. Dagmar says Baker Highway is still closed. Yeah, Baker Highway is closed, but there's some areas around Mount Baker I heard. I believe if Keith was still here, I believe he said something along the lines of there's limited access right now. Limited, but they're starting to open up. But yeah, the details are still very unclear on Wednesday. So unless I have some confidence on what's coming up, I don't want to write a forecast on that quite yet. A suggestion, perhaps. You know, Julie, and I believe you're a subscriber on Facebook too, if I'm not mistaken. I've been writing some initial forecasts on that just with an idea on my subscriber page. But a full written up post, it's too soon to write that up right now. I don't have enough data to make a good enough forecast for Wednesday yet. Yeah, we'll have to wait until tomorrow morning at the earliest. So I'll make sure to check first thing in the morning when I wake up and follow back up with you on that. Tiffany Henry says, enough with the windstorms. Ugh, yeah, a lot of people feel that way. But, you know, it's been a very active December, and it looks like December is going to continue Decembering for a little bit. Yeah, Highway 2 Stevens Pass, work in progress at best. Won't expect much progress till at least February, from what I've heard. Initial indications are springtime. Probably they'll hopefully at least get one-way traffic up there. Maybe similar to what they're doing at 410 near Greenwater with the one-way traffic signal. But most of Highway 2 near Tumwater Canyon is just wasted. That's why they have it closed all the way from Skykomish to Cole's Corner right now. It's devastating for the summits up there. The ski resorts, all of that, travel in the Leavenworth especially. You really got to feel bad for the town of Leavenworth. Because barring what happens at Blewett Pass, if Blewett Pass ever has to close anytime soon for anything like high winds or snow, it's going to be absolute devastation to the town of Leavenworth. You really, really got to feel for that town, honestly. Yeah, but right now, confidence is still low in a windstorm for Wednesday. But we do have initial indications that it is a possibility. The NAM 0Z is almost done, and it's going to be just on the outskirts of this possible wind event. So you can just see that trough moving up from California into Oregon on this. But will it move off to the east, or will it keep moving off to the north? Ooh, the NAM even shows some east wind up here, too. Zoom in on that. Yeah, so sorry for Leavenworth business. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, these look like east winds. Let's check wind direction. Oh, yeah, those are east winds, all right. Those are certainly east winds kicking up here on the NAM. Not super strong, thankfully, but there's an indication that we may have some east winds before that system moves in on Wednesday. Go check pressure again and see exactly why that's the case. We may just have lower pressure off the coast here, probably, and then higher pressure to our east. There's a little meso low right there, but that's not pulling too much of a pressure gradient. I know there's going to be lower pressure west of the Cascades, that's for sure. But it looks like there's a pressure gradient building up over the mountains here. And if it was flowing towards the low pressure, the winds would probably be out of the north through the mountains, going down to the south. But that doesn't look like that's the case this time around. Still something to be aware of, just as a heads up. This is overnight, Tuesday going into Wednesday, and it's showing some easterly winds here for the foothills. Some offshore wind for much of the area, including, look at that, big Fraser River outflow on Christmas Eve also, with the offshore winds. See, northeasterly winds up here, easterly to southeasterly winds through the mountain gaps. And just screaming through the gorge down there. Yeah, nice pressure gradient setting up over the mountains. But slightly higher pressure east of the mountains, slightly lower pressure west. Yeah, it really starts to kick up these east winds as we go to the very last frame here. These winds are all coming out of the east, and this shows wind gusts around the North Bend area. You just make sure this is just east of Tanner River Bend here, close to 60 miles per hour on this model. And that's not even the main event either. But of course, we're not far enough to see where exactly the system's going to move. We can predict it, yes. It looks like based on what I'm seeing here, the center of low pressure may just move far enough east of us to spare us a big blow. But we'll have to wait till tomorrow morning's model runs around this time to really get an idea. By this time tomorrow, we should have the 12Z NAM out, and that should give us a pretty good idea of what we're going to see on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I've only been to Leavenworth once in my life that I remember. And it was during a time with no snow. So I never had the privilege of going out there with snow to see what Leavenworth looked like. Yeah, with snow at Christmas is magical. Oh, I believe it. I certainly believe it, but I've never had that opportunity. Hope Wednesday storm stays south. Dang winds coming to North Bend on Wednesday. Well, right now on the NAM, it's looking like you have some east winds before this wind comes in. And some pretty strong east winds at that. Also very strong Fraser River outflow also. See, this shows over 40-mile-per-hour gusts out of the northeast. Areas just northwest of Bellingham here, like Ferndale, Linden, Sumas, parts of Blaine, Neptune Beach, parts of the Lummi Reservation here. Even some strong winds here, and sometimes this can be overdone. Let me just say, sometimes this can be overdone, but not always. There are times where the NAM has been a hit on this one. But we're not close enough in the HERS range to see what the HER has to say. The HER sometimes underdoes gusts, or keeps the gusts too far east. The NAM usually brings the gusts well into like Issaquah, for example. So be watching this closely, because right now the NAM shows 55 plus for a lot of these foothill spots, including, say, I believe Issaquah somewhere right in here, which means Preston would be right on the outskirts of it. North Bend and Snoqualmie may be a part of it, and then Tanner Riverbend area, just outside of North Bend, would be smack dab under the bullseye for big wind, if this were to happen. Yeah, I've also only seen it on their live cam from time to time. But yeah, it's gotta be so much different in real life. It's gotta be a sight to really behold, honestly. Just snow in general, seeing it in real life is so much different than watching videos. That's why I consider myself lucky every time I see any snow around here, even if it's flakes falling, just because of how rare it is. Each time, especially when it really builds up and accumulates, makes me feel like a child again, honestly. Hope the weather doesn't stay south. South here, and we're tired of the weather as well. Fair enough, Mosky movies. Fair enough. But we'll see. But right now, the initial indication is starts out as an east wind event. But what happens after that is up in the air right now. Quite literally up in the air. Sure thing, Tonya, aka Miss T Bikini. Absolutely. Love snow until I have to shovel. Yeah, I'm glad I have a four-wheeler. I wish it was running better, but just working with what I have right now. I think I have a collapsing brake hose on my left front side because from time to time, like a couple of years ago, I had an issue where my caliper would intermittently stick on the front left side, and I always had to pull the wheel to the right, and it would shake rapidly because the caliper was getting stuck on the rotor. And the only things I haven't replaced for brakes are the hoses, and the hoses are going on 34 years old here. The rubber brake hoses going on 34 years old. I eventually want to do an upgrade to stainless steel brake lines. That would mitigate a lot of the issues and make the brakes feel much more responsive. And there's a site called 4x4 Parts that sells a lot of aftermarket Nissan parts too. A lot of 4x4 Japanese imports. And I've gotten a lot of my parts from there. But yeah, eventually I'll need to do brake lines on my vehicle as well. just another thing that needs to be done. But I've also considered, I have a lot of sentiment with my vehicle. My vehicle that I drive, 1992 Nissan Pathfinder, is the first vehicle I ever remember as a kid. My mom bought it when I was, I think, just turning 3 years old, because there's photos of me when I was 3 in the back seat in a car seat with my mom driving in this 1992 Pathfinder that I drive around. Yeah. Upgrade the stainless steel brake lines for sure in the cards. But because I'm in the apartment right now, it makes it difficult because I'm not able to do the work on my vehicle as it is. I could take it back to my mom's house down the street and do it for sure. And luckily I live close, because if it's an extensive repair and it takes more than a day. Yeah, that was a great year. Really, 86 to 95 in general are the best years for Nissan 4x4s. Both hard bodies and Pathfinders, for sure. And there's a lot of value in those Nissan SUVs, the early ones. Right after they rebranded from Datsun and changed over to Nissan, they have quite a bit of value. If times got desperate and I had to either trade for a little beater car or sell the vehicle as it is and get a cheap car for that, then there's definitely a bit of value in that. But I consider sentiment over everything here. And yeah, so we're gonna veer away from the weather here for a second. I just want to talk about the little behind the scenes of my main vehicle, since it garners a lot of interest as well. But that's the first vehicle I ever remember riding in as a kid. Like, really, outside of my dad's Acura. I think it was an Acura TL or something. I don't remember. I only vaguely remember my dad's car. But I remember a lot about my mom's Pathfinder, which technically is still in her name. I just still drive it. I really should transfer it into my name soon, though. Why does the model increase tomorrow win for Vancouver Island? Because that cold front's coming through, and we're not quite sure how strong it is or when it's going to move in. There's still some disagreement between the models, which I'm hoping will be resolved either late tonight or tomorrow afternoon. I'll make an update post likely tonight after the stream ends, which should be wrapping it up by 7 o'clock. I definitely went a bit longer on the stream than I originally planned. But, you guys have stuck around. You guys have asked questions. There's a lot of engagement from you guys as well. So I'll stay on. I have no problem staying on. But yeah, that's that. But yeah, really, I want to keep up and make sure my Pathfinder stays drivable for years to come. That is the goal. Because I get a lot of compliments on it as well. A lot of people are like, dang, sweet ride, dude. Let's hope models mature. Yeah, honestly. Let's hope models can agree on something sooner down the road. But truth is, I love my vehicle. I've been riding in that vehicle or driving it. Yeah, and or driving it for the last almost 24 years now. At least 23 years that vehicle's been in my family. So I want to make sure it stays in at least decent driving condition. Really, the main issue right now is the occasional misfire. It's probably just a fuel injector giving out. I made the mistake of going with aftermarket injectors about 5 years ago, and I started having issues within a year of putting those injectors in. Yeah, let's go Pathfinder for sure. Is there a model with Wednesday Storm track that's right? I wouldn't say that's right. Like right now, the NAM here is showing east winds early in the morning, but this is as far as this one goes. I'll have to wait till at least tomorrow morning's 12Z to render, which should be done by this time in the morning. So around 6:30 or 7. Then we can just start to see into that. But I should be able to see the full event by tomorrow's 18Z, which should be rendered by around, I'd say 1 to 2 p.m. to see fully into what could happen Wednesday. Can I see this map for Tuesday? Yeah, sure, gladly. So this is Monday, first of all. This is Monday, but for Tuesday. Tuesday looks like a pretty calm day, but east winds. This has east winds picking up around 6 p.m. tomorrow and really getting pretty crazy early Wednesday morning. I'm hoping this is an overestimation because sometimes it is. Yeah, we're still quite a ways away from the 0Z Euro. But we can go look at what the European says. And the European definitely wants to bring that wind in too, but ahead of the system. And then it just absolutely puts us under the gun of southerly winds between 4 and 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Yeah, I think I'll post a second subscriber update tonight too. If I'm still up by the time the 0Z Euro begins to render, then I'll post that again. Otherwise, it won't be until tomorrow morning that there will be an update on Wednesday. Hopefully, expect an update on tomorrow's system by tonight, assuming I'm still up at a decent time. You know, I want to try to fix my sleep schedule since these systems are starting to back off a little bit and move more towards the daytime threat. I'm really trying to repair my sleep schedule because I absolutely ruined it the last 2 weeks with those overnight storms, pulling that all-nighter on Wednesday morning. Yeah, not wise. Was it worth it? Yes, but not wise. I believe Nissan Xterra was a good SUV as well. Yeah. My grandpa used to have a Nissan Xterra. I believe he sold it. Yeah, he did sell it several years ago. But yeah, the Nissan Xterras, especially the 01s to 04s, are probably some of the best Xterras that you can find. That and the Frontiers during the time as well. But the Pathfinders during that time definitely had some issues. And the third gen Pathfinders from 05 to 2012 had the strawberry milkshake of death. This is where the transmission cooler inside the radiator fails and mixes in with the coolant. Therefore, you get coolant inside the transmission and you grenade them pretty much. But, you know, they do have new radiators to fix that. And they came up with that, I believe, pretty quickly. By the time the 4th gen Pathfinder came out, they had that issue under control. Yeah, they called it the SMOD, or Strawberry Milkshake of Death. Luckily, the 1st gen Pathfinder doesn't have that issue, but I do have an aftermarket radiator anyways. I have an aftermarket cooling system, which also currently, unfortunately, does not work. Believe it, there's an electrical problem somewhere that I also have to dig in. There's a lot of work I have to do. There is a lot of work I have to do. Is it drivable right now? Yes, but in the long term, no. At least not safely. I gotta be really careful, which is why I'm not driving as much as I used to. I'll take trips up to Tacoma to see my dad at least once a week or so, and then the occasional drive around somewhere, but that's really about it. I've been limiting my trips as of recent. Yeah, yikes is right. It's the thing about living in an apartment. I can't readily do these repairs on a moment's notice like I did before. I took like over a 4 to 5 year span several years ago. I literally just repaired most of the problems on my Pathfinder that I had. And it's really the only reason it's still driving as good as it is right now. Yes, projects for the future, absolutely. But in order to do that, we need a lot more funding. Which is why I'm not going to beg to you guys. I know I've gotten messages from some of you guys asking why I'm begging for money. That's not true. Asking for voluntary donations, yes, from time to time, but only if it benefits you. Yeah, the truth is, PSSW, to finish all of these projects and be sure to stay live streaming full time, we need a lot more help in the funding department, to be brutally honest. We're in a good spot now with YouTube monetization. That really, really helps, but we're still far from where we want to be. I'm usually transparent when it comes to these things with you guys. I really don't have anything to hide from the audience on Facebook or YouTube. I don't have anything to hide from you guys. I'm telling you guys the truth as it comes in. And the truth is, sometimes I think, okay, maybe I quit my job a little too prematurely. Maybe that is true. Maybe I should have saved up a little more. That's true. Maybe I picked the wrong choice of a vehicle. That could be true. But I just believe that I'm making what I believe to be the right long-term decisions here. And I appreciate you guys for your support. Truly, honestly, it is like a saving grace for me. And to be able to open up and vent to you guys about these things behind the scenes on such short notice like this is a privilege I will not take for granted ever. And I wouldn't be in this position without you guys. If I didn't have all of the help from the subs and all the donos, all of that, I'd still be working my miserable job at Safeway, working multiple positions at once, So I just got to say thank you guys for saving me, for liberating me from that. I couldn't be more grateful, truthfully. But we still have a very long ways to go, and I'm not going to hide that from you guys. There's still a very long ways to go. Still have a lot of real estate to build here for Puget Sound Stormwatch. You just make sure we're getting all the Facebook comments in. Not begging when it's how you earn your money. I get so frustrated when people have that mindset. Yes, this is very much true. It's just, I've gotten several messages in the past of people saying they would stop supporting me the moment I asked for any sort of money from anybody. And I'm just like, you know what? If you want to leave, you're more than welcome to go. I'm not going to make you stay, honestly. But if you do help, you are just too valuable to the program. I only want to build up from here. Yes, sure, you could say there's some competition that's doing better. Or, weather shouldn't be, or, you shouldn't gatekeep weather, like some people have said too, to earn money off of it. Yes, I agree with that. But like I say time and time before, if you support the creator, you support the person behind the weather, then I think that is different. Thank you so much, Doppler Dave, for your $20 super duper. Appreciate that. And Sean Orfilla, hello, welcome in. Yeah, Doppler Dave, thank you so much. Again, your guys' support is the whole world to me. Truthfully, yeah, let's all give a W to Doppler Dave in the chat. W Doppler Dave. For sure. And he donated $5 earlier as well for some air fresheners for my my little sewage backup I had in my apartment. Not the way I wanted today to go. It started off stale, quite literally. I got a lot of cleanup to do in the kitchen sink, to say the very least. Yeah, guys, can you believe Christmas is in 4 days? It honestly has not really felt like Christmas time this year. And I don't want to get too down in the dumps about this, but it's just the last few years, Christmas has been a little stale. I'm not going to lie. At least personally for me, Christmas has been a little bit on the stale side. I'm not going to say that I don't like Christmas, though. I still love Christmas. It's still one of, if not my favorite holidays. It's just, times are rough, honestly, in the world and personally. That I'm not going to lie to you guys about. Times are very much tough. Yeah, again, thank you guys. All the W's for Dave. Yeah, I know what you mean when it comes up so fast. If anything, New Year's is New Year's Day is probably becoming my favorite holiday the last few years. It's because it gives you a time to really reset. You know, it gives me the time to reset and change my way of thinking. And that is just what I need right now. A lot of things going on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? And so to just be able to have that reset and reflect on what happened this year. You know, this year was a huge year for me personally. You know, I moved out on my own for the very first time. I quit my very first job. It was a huge year, but it also had its downs too. You know, I lost a number of family members, unfortunately. You know, death claimed them, but death is inevitable. You know, it's inevitable, and I'm just extremely grateful for what I have now and who I have in my life, and I will never ever take that for granted. Including all of you guys following me right now. You know, you guys are the only reason why I'm able to make this happen. You know, if I'm talking to 300 of you, if I'm talking to 30 of you, it's all thanks to you guys. I'm actually talking to 32 of you guys here on YouTube now, and 21 of you guys on Facebook. Actually, I think that froze. We're down to about 4 on Facebook. Yeah, you guys probably got tired of it on Facebook, but that's okay. Let's read some of these comments. Supporting these channels is important, said Mitchell Godwin, especially the mall content creators like this channel. A lot of time and work involved. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just talking to my partner about this, Christmas is different this year. Something does feel different about this Christmas. Probably just because the weather's so warm and active too. It feels like a later kind of fall time. Like a later fall time. Shelby Stevens, hello there. How are you doing today? That would be like me giving away the pet portraits I do for free when the supplies are money. Yeah, it's nowadays you're in a time where you can take very minimal losses. You know, unfortunately, ever since I quit my job at Safeway to do this full time, it's been losses ever since. We're doing really good this December though with all the weather, but you know, I don't want to focus on me. I want to focus to everyone else who lost so much more this December due to the flooding and the winds. You know, they deserve. Trying to word this properly, but you know, they deserve the world and more for what they've gone through, and they have all of my support. You know, both morally and physically, if I were able to make it up there to help out. Let's go through some of your comments again. Greatly appreciate you. After how long you were on the other night morning, I have mad respect for you. You went above and beyond for your viewers. Yeah, of course. I wouldn't rather be doing anything else, truthfully. Honestly, this is my dream job right here. It's always been my dream to do the weather, but I also dream of doing, you know, video work, which I've always loved as well. And I'm doing video work and I'm doing an entrepreneurship. You know, not having a boss to work under is huge, in my opinion. I get to do all of those all in one. Even if it's not as profitable as what I had before. You know, being able to have the chance to do it all in one, I am beyond grateful for the opportunity. Doppler Dave says, pouring rain in South Bellingham. Thank you for the heads up. We haven't checked radar in a while. Yeah, it looks like either the back end of the front or a convergence zone is forming up there. It's a little hard to tell right now, but there's definitely some showers filling in here in the South Sound. I think that front already might have come through, so this is probably a convergence zone shower forming up here. Yeah, pretty weak frontal system, for sure. Actually, that front, looks like the front's still passing, so that's the front coming through, not the convergence. Let's see, Sean is asking about the system. Yeah. We actually had this pulled up, the system on Wednesday right now. Initially, it looks like it'll start out as an east wind event overnight Tuesday and the Wednesday. The east wind's likely peaking sometime late morning Wednesday, and then the winds shift to southerly when that system comes up. And then we could talk about some big wins around here, but there's still a lot of unknowns. It's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. You know, there's a monster pressure gradient on this thing. That's a huge pressure gradient over Oregon. It's a substantial pressure gradient over Western Washington too. 8 millibars between Tacoma and Longview is no joke. That is no joke whatsoever. You know what I'm saying, but we'll be watching this very closely because the other models don't show this. Right now, the European and its AI counterpart are the only ones that have been sort of sticking to their guns the last day or two. You know, and even before, the European was trying to sniff this out, and usually we use the European the most for this. The European usually has the best hunch on sniffing out these wins. You know, it's got a notorious reputation for that. But will it stick around this time? It's too soon to tell. It's still way too soon. That's why we need to wait until at least later tomorrow morning to get all of the high-res imagery within enough range to see what is going to go on in the short term. This is why I'm holding back from making a public post on this, just because of that, because I want to be more sure of it before I start the cry wolf process. What are and how do pressure gradients work? Great question, Dagmar Devere. So pressure gradient is the difference between pressures. To keep it simple, each of these black bars here, these are called isobars. These are areas of equal pressure. So like, for example, this bar is 996. These are measured in millibars. 996 millibars. This one's 998. And then 1000, 1002, and 1004. The closer these bars are together, then the stronger your winds are going to be, because the winds always come out of the pressure rise. Not necessarily the pressure drop, but the pressure rise is where the strongest winds happen. That's why the system was so impactful on Wednesday morning, because we had those sharp pressure rises. When it goes from low to high pressure, it's because wind is the movement of air from higher pressure to lower pressure. It'll always move from high to low. That's just how it works thermodynamically and in the world of physics. That's why whenever you have these low pressure systems scrape by us off the coast, and you have high pressure to the east, that's why the bomb cyclone was so damaging last year. Because you had a huge pressure gradient over the mountains, over this really small area up here. See, and it shows that pressure gradient for the east winds before the event as well, albeit not as strong as it could be. See, it shows about a 4 millibar gradient over the mountains, which is not too impressive. But this could still produce some east winds 30 to 40 miles per hour pretty easily. And by that, I mean gusts, not sustained winds, but 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts with a 4 millibar gradient. It's the difference across the isobars over a given area. And the more isobars you have over a smaller area, the tighter the pressure gradient is, and therefore, in theory, the stronger the winds should be. So check out this frame here. Tacoma's under the 996 millibar isobar here. And then in the next frame, which is 3 hours later, it's between the 1006 and the 1008. So you're around 1007 or so, effectively. Around 1007 millibars. So that's about an 11 millibar increase over 3 hours, which averages just below 4 millibars per hour, which is not too small. That's a pretty substantial pressure rise. That's why they're talking about the wind here on the European, because that pressure rise, that is no small pressure rise, even if it's over 3 hours. But yeah, it has anywhere between a 10 to 11, even the outlying chance of a 12 millibar pressure rise over 3 hours, which is something to run home about during this time of the year. Especially on Christmas Eve when everyone's going to be busy in this area. Can you imagine if we had widespread power outages on Christmas Eve of all days? Don't want to share that on Anthony's stream without his blessing. Honestly, if you want to share your pet photography, if you want to promote it, feel free. You have my permission. Yeah, from this point on, you have my permission to share your photography business. Feel free. You know, you've done more than enough to help me out. I should return the favor and help you out. So yes, please feel free to advertise your business on here. Ashley in particular. About Bellingham on Wednesday. Pressure gradient looks to be eroding by the time it gets up in the Bellingham. You know, the European does show some snow leaking in, but again, this is a resolution issue. Take this with a grain of salt. This likely will be in the form of rain over these low-lying areas here, and in the foothills too. Like, you notice that pressure gradient has pretty much fully eroded by the time it's gotten up there. So we'll likely see less wind gusts, much less impactful up there. See, it doesn't even have Bellingham getting over 25. Heck, not even 22 is the max when this storm comes through. Yeah, it doesn't look impressive for really anywhere north of Everett, I'd say. Except if you're up in the foothills, of course. If you're in the foothills going up to Skagit County, this could hit you pretty hard in some areas. But again, details are very unclear. There's no other model showing this. The run-to-run forecast is pretty consistent, but the model-to-model agreement is not there yet. So it's too soon to talk about specifics, and that's why I'm not stressing this very much right now. You know, but in the meantime, we do have tomorrow's system that looks like it may bring some slightly stronger winds to this area. And again, let me show you that here on the HRRR. You know, HRRR showing some 45 to 50 mile per hour gusts around this area. Again, it's on the high side. This is in the higher percentile of solutions, very likely. But by 4 p.m. tomorrow, it does show some strong winds, mainly over the waters here in the central South Sound and some parts of the southwest interior also. And if we go over to the NAM, which just got done rendering, it postpones this a couple of hours, but still has some strong winds down here, just not as strong as what the HRRR was showing. But still strong winds here over the Salish Sea and surrounding waters. That's why they have this wind advisory in effect for this area. They also have that wind advisory in effect for the North Coast as well. Not the Central Coast, so not the coast of Grays Harbor County, but for the coast of Jefferson and Clallam County. They do have that wind advisory in effect from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow, and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the rest of the Northwest Inland Waters area, but not Port Townsend for some reason. They've been holding back on putting Port Townsend in the wind advisories for some odd reason. I don't know the exact rationale for that, though. It does look like it's in the strait. These winds are going to be out of the southeast, too. But it doesn't look super impactful for the Nanaimo area. Because then that front's going to come through. And once that front comes through, it's going to shift your winds back to onshore around here, which means it's going to effectively cut off winds for the Nanaimo Ladysmith area. Brand new and still growing. Profile photo is a hand-drawn. Don't know how to pronounce that. Parrot by my mom. Oh, sweet. Very sweet. If you want to post what it is in the comments, I'll look at it with my personal profile. I'll go check things out for you. Hope it's not like the last storm that was trouble. Yeah, it's too soon to say, really. It's really too soon to say in specific. Like I said, we need more model-to-model agreement. Not just run-to-run agreement, but model-to-model agreement. You know, like, we would need the GFS and the Canadian and all of that fun stuff to swing this way. But I'm really paying attention to what the high-res says. But we're not quite in range of that yet. I did, but it may not have posted all the way. Oh, a Dash and Splash Studios. Okay, I will pay it a visit later on. Let me look it up here real quick. And guys, on YouTube, you may see some more ads during the stream. Since it's not breaking live coverage, I won't have the ad suspended this time around, but it will definitely help bolster the revenue behind the scenes. So if you guys run into an ad anytime during the stream, I'm sorry, but I just want to keep the ads running at an average rate right now. Just because, I don't have enough interest from people with YouTube Premium that are viewing right now. But also just because, I'm trying to build up some more behind the scenes revenue because I honestly need all the help I can get right now. So I appreciate you guys for understanding. I'm sorry if you run into an ad at an inopportune time. If there was an ad during any time, feel free to let me know. I'll re-clarify anything you need. It's a great page you have here, Ashley. Just gave you a follow. You have some great drawings on here. Great job. Yeah, I just followed you. Don't mind the ads at all if it helps out. Thank you. It's my greatest passion and escape from being a full-time mom. Can't relate. I'm not a full-time mom. Let's see here. Do we have any substantial snow coming in with these systems in the passes? Yes. So looking likely with tomorrow's system, once that cold front swings through, will bring heavy snow. And that's why they have that winter storm warning. Again, they have a winter storm warning for the North Passes up here. Winter weather advisory for the rest of the passes here, though, with lesser snow amounts expected. But the North Passes are likely going to get slammed pretty hard. Potentially Stevens, too. Stevens is like right on the edge of that. I think out of the passes, Snoqualmie Pass will likely see the least amount of snow, just due to its lower elevation than the rest. So yeah, and then Wednesday, the signal doesn't look great for snow right now, but Monday, tomorrow, does look like a great chance of some higher elevation snow. Heard wind for Christmas Eve as well. Yeah, initially wind for Christmas Eve, yes, and that's what we were looking at before here. So I'll show this one more time again, and I want to see what the NAM Regional shows too. The NAM Regional shows similar. Now, it looks like the NAM still throws it off to the east. A little weird. No, it brings the low in, but nowhere near as strong as the European, which is kind of odd. Then again, this is a lower resolution model too. This is the 12-kilometer model. So it has 4 times less resolution than the high-res model. Olga says 24th showing possible 55-mile-per-hour gusts for Maple Valley. Hopefully it doesn't pan out. Yeah, I see a couple of people tuning in now talking about the wind. And I think the NAM's an outlier right now. At least the NAM regional model's an outlier. But yeah, if we go back to the European is the one that's really going chaotic on wind around here. But see, it shows it's starting out as east wind, and this east wind could affect Maple Valley too. But then the east shifts to south when that system comes in. And again, it just absolutely hammers us with southerly wind during the day on Christmas Eve going into the nighttime. Which, yeah, hopefully this doesn't happen, or a lot of people could wake up with no power Christmas morning. Geez, could you imagine what a bummer that would be around this area? A most inopportune time possible. Other than Thanksgiving. Yeah, this is again, December 24th, Christmas Eve. This is between 4 and 10 p.m. Likely showing anywhere between 45, 55, possibly higher right now. But this is one model. Okay, we don't have enough model-to-model agreement again, and I'll keep restating that. Don't have enough model-to-model agreement to really be sure. To really 100% be sure that we have a windstorm coming up. It's still too soon to say. Even if it seems like less than 72 hours is not too soon, it's still too soon. You know, we're not in high-res range yet. We have to be within 48 to 60 hours to really get a good idea of what's coming. So that's why I'm really holding off on sounding the alarm on this to the public. I want to be sure of it, or at least be very close to being sure of it before I initiate that alarm. You know, so just please be aware of that. The possibility, yes, but it's nothing close to a given right now. Yeah, W Sonia, everybody. W Sonia. Ooh, 3 hours already, guys. I think it's about time to start wrapping this up here pretty quickly. About probably 7:30, I'd say. We'll get in any last minute questions we can right now. Then after that, we'll begin to wrap things up for the night. Yeah, appreciate all of your donations, guys. Thank you all for the kind words. Shout out earlier to Ken Moffitt for 5,000 stars here on Facebook. The excellent Christmas present. Really appreciate that again. Thank you for the supers as well, William Gatlin and Doppler Dave. Thank you guys for your super chats. Yeah, W Sonia, everybody. Again, if you guys would like to make a donation before Christmas time, this is the place to do it right here. Unfortunately, I won't be able to commentate on YouTube because it's completely bricked on my end, but for you Facebook followers. Again, you can find this link in the stream description on YouTube as well. ko-fi.com/Puget Sound Stormwatch. Again, ko-fi.com/Puget Sound Stormwatch. If you guys would like to donate a little coffee before Christmas time, I would be very much appreciated. But again, not going to force anything on anybody. But thank you guys for taking the time to listen to what I had to say this evening, even if a lot of it was outside of weather. Still appreciate you guys who have hung around. Let me see. I have 4 screens and I keep losing my mouse. Yeah, trying to think positive this time of the year. Even when things are kind of adverse. Still just trying to keep up the positive vibes. You know, a lot of people are recovering from flood damage and wind damage also. And, you know, my greatest thoughts go out to all of you guys. All of those people who, you know, even who I wasn't able to help, unfortunately. I wasn't able to help everybody. But I hope I helped a lot of people out with all of this. And again, appreciate all the kind words from the last 2 weeks, everyone. Really makes doing this worthwhile and fun to do also. Which model do you like and follow the most on Windy? I usually go with the European by default, because the European is the default run here on Windy. But you also have access to other high-res models too. You know, you have, if you see down here in the lower right corner, also have access to the HER and the NAM, also the Canadian high-res as well. But the Canadian's usually kind of an outlier sometimes, so I don't always use, like this is the HRDPS, for example. It's the 2.5 kilometer high-res Canadian CAM model, or convection allowing model. It's what they call all of the high-res ones that are within like 84 hours or less. Now, I just stick with the European. I just ride out with the European, but if not that, I go with the Her and the Nam for the most high-res information. Brad, thank you for the kind words. He says, keep it up. Yes, hello, Brad. Welcome in. And again, I've attached links to some of my merch here on YouTube as well. See, I have a pin, a little pinned link here on the stream that takes you to my men's t-shirt with the Puget Sound Stormwatch logo. Guys, I'm guilty. I haven't even ordered my own merch yet. I've had, I think, 4 sales of merch so far since I launched the store back in September, I believe it was. If you guys are considering maybe a last-minute late Christmas present, please consider buying some merch from my store if you guys are interested. Again, link can be found in the description here on YouTube, but it's also in my pinned section on Facebook. Or if you guys want the link, I can also post it down below for you as well. PugetSoundStormWatch.myspreadshop.com. All of these designs can be found here. I have 10 of them right now. One of these was specially requested, but I may be taking it down soon. So if you're watching right now and you requested something like this design, if you want any changes to it, please let me know. I will accommodate for you. When we get paid in January, I'm going to have to order a shirt or something. Sounds great. Thank you for everything. You too for your subs and viewers. Oh yeah, of course. Glad to be here to help you guys, honestly. Really glad to be here to help. But yeah, I came out with a lot of new designs for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Unfortunately, Black Friday was a bust. I didn't have a single sale. But, it is what it is. I appreciate the 1 or 2 orders that came afterwards, so thank you guys. Again, feel free to check out my store here. If you want to buy something like the Big Dark, for example. I have it in multiple different platforms. And if you see something that you want but don't see, like a tank top, for example, should be able to put it on a tank top too. If you see a design or if you see a clothing item that you don't see but you want a design on, please let me know so I can set that up for you as soon as possible. For example, if you want to buy the Big Dark sticker, for example. Yes, this is partially AI generated, by the way. Don't come hating at me for that. Partially AI generated. Yeah, a lot of these designs I made from scratch myself. Like, of course, Puget Sound Stormwatch logo. I should probably start ordering this merch sometime very soon so I can hopefully get it before the new year. But yeah, if you guys want some Puget Sound Stormwatch swagger, this would be the place to be. If you ever need art for a sticker, let me know. Yeah, I may take your offer on that, potentially. Yeah, guys, appreciate your support so much. We're going to wrap things up. It's almost 7:30. Probably going to make one more post tonight talking about the win potential for tomorrow on Facebook and Patreon. We have a little clearer detail, but there's still some issues on timing and strength that we need to figure out for tomorrow. But one thing we know for sure is we do have that wind advisory in effect. And also, I brought this up earlier, but I didn't finish it in the entirety. But there's still a landslide risk. Still a very elevated landslide risk around the entire forecast area. So just a heads up on that. Yeah, that is great. I will definitely, I may have to take up your offer on that for sure. I've had some ideas for merch and I did follow up with some of them. Like the other Ashley Splain Dusher, who's on here sometimes, another one of my subscribers, was talking about a repping and prepping design, or was saying, now is the time to be repping and prepping, something similar to that. And I was like, hey, that sounds like a great t-shirt design. Maybe coming soon. We'll see. I really need some inspiration right now, guys. If you guys have any inspiration, again, just let me know. If you want to see a specific design for a shirt, feel free to let me know. I'll see what I can do to make it happen. Yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up tonight's coverage on what's coming. So it's a heads up. Wind the possibility tomorrow as well as Wednesday. That is the general diagnosis for what's to come this week. But outside of that, a complete wild card going into the new year. The Weather Prediction Center does have atmospheric river potential, though, going into the new year. Just a heads up. In case you've seen some of the weather pages post those experimental products around, like Little Bear Creek Weather, for example, and Ingalls Weather. Also, both great Facebook pages here on Facebook. Again, Little Bear Creek Weather and Ingalls Weather. I repost their posts a lot, too. You'll see them on my page quite a bit. And highly recommend those pages to you guys. Yeah, appreciate everyone coming in for coverage tonight. I should be coming up with a post tonight. We'll see. I may hold off until tomorrow morning to get a better idea, but I do at least want to try to make a post on potential wins tomorrow afternoon. Still a little disagreement on timing and strength, and I'll talk about that too. I need to take some time to formulate that post. Yeah, like Sonia said, we greatly appreciate our viewers. You all rock, and we wouldn't be able to do this without you. So take care, everyone. Merry early Christmas to you all. Thank you all for the holiday cheer. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch. We're going to begin to sign off for the afternoon, or for the evening time. Again, expect a post hopefully by tonight on Facebook and Patreon. If you guys on YouTube don't have Facebook, please consider looking at my Patreon. The link is in the description of the stream. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining tonight. You all have a great night. Stay safe. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you all.